It's Fully Threaded Radio, episode 173.
Yeah, certainly blockchain is definitely the way that larger companies are moving in terms of, supply chain, data and control. And it is something that I think those larger customers, particularly like automotive customers, medical customers, they're going to put pressure on suppliers to move that way. And I think some of the larger businesses in our space probably are aware of it, are already having those conversations and thinking about how that can be deployed. But the reality is,
I just spent the middle of the night, literally 2 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock in the morning, on nuts on which I sit. And
it's time for Fully Threaded Radio.
It is Fully Threaded Radio, voice of the mighty FCH sourcing network. If you buy, sell, import, or manufacture fasteners, or if you just have a general interest in things like thread pitch, well, you clicked on the right podcast, and we're so glad you did. Hey, everybody. Eric Dudas here, coming to you from the frozen tundra of semi-rural northeastern Ohio. And the co-host of Fully Threaded Radio is with us as well. He's a man who only occasionally stops thinking about fastener-related topics to consider questions during his Vegemite breaks. He's Brian Musker. Hey, Bri, you doing all right?
I'm very good, thank you. And I might tell you that just as proof that our dog is a half Australian cattle dog mix, loves toast and Vegemite, okay?
I thought you were going to train him not to eat from the table this one.
Well, I don't. He doesn't eat that from the table. I give him a break off a piece of toast.
Well, he's one lucky fastener dog.
Yeah, he doesn't know how lucky he really is.
Well, there's a lot of those in the industry.
There are,
we
actually.
keep threatening to have a segment on the podcast about that topic, and, we'll get to it one of these days. But not on this one, which is episode 173 of Fully Threaded Radio. This time we're publishing just a little late, February 16th, 2022, and we've got another content-dense episode. This one dealing with a subject that some of you apparently are not too clear on. I don't know if we're going to clear up any of the ambiguity surrounding blockchain today, Bri, but we're going to give it a little bit of a whack.
Right. So it's a complete conversation in its own right. There's the problem.
Yeah, well, it's huge, but it's also a technology that's looming. And I believe the consensus of our guests and the industry is, A, they don't clearly understand it for the most part, and B, if it's coming, it won't be for a while, which is probably pretty true.
Nevertheless, it is going to come, and it's worth knowing what it might do.
Thus, the podcast.
Yep.
We're going to kick off today with a conversation that could only be had now, as John Newman and Tim Vath of Lindfast and Solution Industries join us to fill in a few gaps in our understanding of what went down during the recent merger of those two companies. Well known that they are, and longtime sponsors, of course.
Right.
Our feature segment today is a conversation with AFC Industries CEO Kevin Godin. Every time you turn around these days, AFC is snapping up another distributor, and Kevin explains some of the reasoning behind this. Now, Kevin's also the president of the NFDA, so we touch on that a little bit too. He also offers his thoughts on blockchain, what it might mean for the fastener industry. On the Fastener News Report, Mike McNulty's joined by Kelly Cousteau Cole of Hayes Bolt and possibly the good ship Calypso. They pour over the latest FDI numbers, which are starting to sag a little, everybody. And they also touch on Kelly's flirtations with hammerhead sharks on this predominantly fastener-related episode.
Yeah, and remember that the FDI this month had a supplemental question about blockchains.
Yes, and that's where we got the title for today's episode, Unchained, because that's what we seem to be based on that survey.
Yeah, right. Not very chained at all.
No. We've also got an exciting cameo on today's episode, everybody. It's a visit with a new voice on the podcast, which actually belongs to a very old hand in the thread game. He's Stan the Screw of Star Stainless. You'll get to hear his voice for the very first time. Plus, Carmen Vertullo asks the question, should a jam nut go on top or underneath? The experts are wrong, according to Carm. At least most of them. Learn all about the right way to get a jam nut on, if there is one, or if it's still a mystery, on today's Fastener Training Minute.
Well, even I want to know that. Maybe I've been wrong all my life.
Yeah, well, I just hope it doesn't turn into another one of these fit bolt conundrums.
Yeah, so do I.
But it's a jam-packed episode, everybody. And on the jammed theme, we've also got a jammed list of sponsors. And Bri, that's your department.
Yeah, we do. And we're really lucky to have them too. The title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio are Brighton Best International, Gerbil Fasteners, and Star Stainless Screw Company. Brighton Best International. Tested, tried and true. Gerbil Fasteners. Quality the first time. Star Stainless Screw Company. Right off the shelf for over 70 years. Also sponsoring Fully Threaded Radio are Buckeye Fasteners, BTM Manufacturing, Eurolink Fastener Supply Service, Fastener Fair USA, InSequel Software, ND Industries, Parker Fasteners, 3Q Inc., Stelfast, Volt Industrial Plastics, Worth Industry North America, and Solution Industries, home of Solution Man. So remember, if you have important fastener needs, then you should be thinking of these companies first, okay? Because they're the ones who help bring this podcast to you. We thank them, and we're very glad we've had them for a long time, and we are friends with all of them.
Yes, a lot of friends in that list, Bri. Thank you very much. Let them know what you think, folks, when you see them at shows, at association meetings, or anytime. And let us know what you think of Fully Threaded Radio. We'd appreciate it. The email here is ftr@fullythreaded.com. Your questions, comments, suggestions, all welcome.
Yes.
Also, if you remember from last episode, we invited folks who are coming out to the Cleveland area in May for the NCFA Distributor Social. If you're interested in hopping in the boat, doing a little muskie fishing with Brian and Eric, we got a few nibbles on that one. We're going to be lining up dates. Of course, we have to watch local weather patterns as the time gets nearer, but we certainly plan to take a few outings out there. And if you're so inclined, drop us a line.
Yep.
And that'll be enough of the fishing puns for one show, I think, Bri. You know, if golf is more your speed, let's put it right up front here at the top of the episode. The Southwest Fastener Association's got an outing, and there are a lot of SFAers in the audience and supporters. March 29th is the big golf outing, and it's your next chance to win the coveted FTR award, which, of course, consists of a 30-pack of Busch Light beer and an attractive FTR golf hat.
You're right. The golf hat is probably worth much more than the beer, okay?
Well, it depends who you ask.
Right.
I don't know. You know this industry better than that, Bri. Anyway, this is taking place at Texas Rangers Golf Club, which is in Arlington, Texas. Again, that's March 29th. The website to get details and for registration, which is now open, is southwesternfastener.org. And they've been supporting the fastener industry since 1975. Good organization, good people. Jake and Barron will be there. A lot of our other friends.
If you look really hard, look out for Mark Cuban. You can ask him all your questions about blockchain.
I can guarantee you that the guys, while they're playing golf, they normally wouldn't be asking anybody about blockchain, but certainly not on that day, Bri. Well, you never know. Now, when you were based down in Texas, you were much less of a fastener-related guy, because that really wasn't your thing when you were down there.
No.
But you were near Arlington, right?
No, not really. Arlington's like sort of halfway between Dallas and Fort Worth, sort of. So the stadium is sort of in the middle between the both cities. When I lived there, Mark Cuban hadn't made all his billions of dollars. He was making it, so he hadn't bought the Rangers then, or Mavericks, I mean.
No, but didn't you used to see Ross Perot jogging through your neighborhood?
Yes, we did, because we lived 2 streets away from Ross Perot, actually. We were in a poor part of the very expensive subdivision. But he did. He had a house you could have defined as like a castle. It was a mammoth mansion. And he used to run with bodyguards around the streets.
And what kind of shoes did he wear? I know all the YFPers in the audience are wanting to know.
I don't know.
Yeah, you didn't pay attention. I wouldn't have either. No worries. Well, the SFA golf outing, it doesn't really matter what kind of shoes you wear either. Just as long as you have a good time, support the industry, get a little networking in while you're trying to avoid getting that FTR award.
Right. Worth avoiding, okay?
But one thing you won't be able to avoid, folks, is a couple of messages which we're going to jam in right now. Then we'll be back to put a wrench to this one. Thanks again for listening in. It's Fully Threaded
Radio.
2 men, 1 server, a fastener dog, and a stunning lack of more lucrative alternatives. It's Fully Threaded Radio.
The U.S. Anchor Division at Brighton Best International is comprised of a comprehensive line of light, medium, and heavy-duty anchors for various construction and industrial applications. This line is highlighted by its flagship Ultra Wedge Plus wedge anchor, which is crack concrete tested and approved by ICC-ES and Miami-Dade County. The U.S. Anchor line includes the Tap King SC that is Miami-Dade approved for standard and hurricane window applications, and the Tap King HD designed for heavy-duty uses in concrete and is ICC-ES approved for crack concrete. The balance of U.S. Anchor product line includes light-duty anchors for drywall, hollow block wall, standard concrete, and brick and mortar joints. Contact your BBI representative or visit www.brightonbest.com/brands for more info.
Goebel Fasteners increases efforts to maintain its reputation as the leading rivet source with a large inventory of parts and expedited delivery options. We have over $10 million worth of global inventory in stock at all times and pride ourselves on same-day or next-day shipping options that are available to all our customers. Goebel Fasteners, the leading rivet source.
At Star, the sum of all we do delivers what we consider Star quality. What began decades ago in a small-town garage paved the way for Star Stainless, a foundation built upon hard work, dedication, commitment, and partnerships. It's not just strictly the quality of the products we sell or the service we offer, but the approach in everything we do. Thanks for working with us throughout the years. Let's successfully kick off 2022 together. At Star Stainless, our quality is more than products.
Brian and Eric aren't just the best at what they do, they're the only ones that do what they do. This is Carmen. Now it's back to Fully Threaded Radio.
Brian and Eric, your online fastener amigos, back with you, folks. You know, we've got this conversation with Stan the Screw, the new Star mascot. Actually, he's not new. He's been around for a long time, but this is the first time you'll hear his voice. He's coming up ahead of the news. So I failed to mention these questions that we put on the FDI regarding blockchain, Brian. I figured we'd mention them right now in case people were curious.
Okay.
For those of you who participate in the FDI survey, which is each month, and we hope you are if you're a North American fastener distributor, occasionally we'll ask a timely question, and we promise to inquire about the general thoughts on blockchain after, I think it was episode 171, right? Or was it episode? I get them confused. Anyway, we added 3 supplemental questions this time around regarding blockchain. Number 1, do you feel your understanding of blockchain technology is adequate to evaluate its possible impact on your business? Number 2, is your company utilizing or planning to utilize blockchain-based systems in support of your supply chain operations? And 3, now this was the one I thought we'd get a lot of ringers on, Bri. Are you aware of any customers or suppliers deploying blockchain-based systems? So as you'll hear during the FDI presentation, during the Fastener News Report, everybody, there's a whole lot of nothing going on there.
Right. Well, we'll tell you later. There is stuff going on.
Well, there sure is. That's why we're kind of hammering on it a little bit, maybe a ways off. Anyway, one of the big things, though, Bri, is people are confused or they're just not clear about the relationship between blockchain and Bitcoin, which is everywhere in the headlines, right?
Right. That's true. And that partly is probably because the people who are hoping Bitcoin keeps going up quite like the little bit of confusion.
Well, that's a good point. That could be true. I think it's also probably because a lot of the people, at least in the mainstream, who are reporting on it have no idea what they're talking about. So if you count yourself in that group, everyone, you have an adequate company. And before we get off of this, because I don't want to belabor it, it's not interesting to some people, blockchain is the technology that Bitcoin operates off of. So a lot of different things happen on blockchains.
Right. And Ethereum and all these other cryptos too.
Right. Bitcoin's only one of many.
Yep.
Now, what many companies are excited by, Bri, is that the in-sequel interface to Star Stainless is coming online. That's in testing now. You've done a ton of work behind the scenes to get this running.
Yep.
And everybody, if your company is one that's grappling with getting data formatted to go in a system like the in-sequel Direct Connect system, or if you're just going online with a shopping cart project, which lots of companies are, and you need help getting that data to fit into these systems, well, give us a call here at FCH Sourcing Network because we have tools and know-how that will make that job way easier. And we can usually find some problems that you're about to hit before you ever know they're out there. So that's mainly due to Brian jumping in and looking at your project. So you need a heads up, give us a ring. FCHSourcingNetwork.com. The website is FastenersClearinghouse.com. There's a link on that page that describes our scrubber software, and that's a part of it. But if you want to get in on a project with us, just shoot an email. I don't know, though, Bri. I don't know if you have any time to dedicate to any of those projects right now. You know, we've every time we get the backlog tamped down, seems like we get another inquiry and we're off to the races again. You've been pretty busy lately.
Yeah, on a number of fronts, actually. Some mundane and terribly critical, and others more interesting.
Yeah, well, you're one of these guys who actually thinks these projects are interesting. Some people, they're just not cut out for it. And there's a lot of people in the fastener industry who let these things just sort of get old. And you see people who want to get online, but their data, it's just such a huge project looming over them that they never get around to it. And we've helped a lot of companies like that over the years.
Right, yeah. I mean, in the most simplest form. And remember, most people's inventory is really badly described. It's got all sorts of abbreviation to things in it. And so projects that we do for people are to just run through their inventory and at least sort it out. Which ones are nuts and bolts and screws and washers and inserts and things like that, and what sorts are they? And then what's the thread pitch? What's the length? All that sort of stuff. Is it unified national fine, unified national course? Because you sort of need that stuff if you're going to put your stuff on the web, because someone's got to be able to put in a thread pitch and it's got to find the right one.
Well, there's a lot to it. And then part numbering is another huge aspect of it. Incidentally, folks, some companies use our tool set to do part number cross-referencing or matching projects. So that is frequently another step involved in these kinds of things, and that comes in handy, especially if you're in the business of acquiring companies and you need to assimilate inventory into a larger inventory data set. Anyway, I think you get the idea. Get out to fastenersclearinghouse.com. You can read up more on that, or just reach out, ftr@fullythreaded.com.
Right. And remember that, because we can take a whole inventory list and cross-reference it to Stelfast part numbers, and now fairly accurately to Star Stainless part numbers too. So if you have a system you just want to build a Star Stainless part numbers into your system or Stelfast, you can do that too.
Well, there's a whole slew of them though, Bri, isn't there?
Or BBI I can do too.
I think there are a few others too.
Oh, Cambridge too, that's right.
Uh-huh.
You're right, I forgot. You're right. We can do a fair number, actually.
You know, Bri, I'm thinking as we're talking about this would be the perfect topic to discuss at an NFDA ESPS meeting. What do you think?
Yeah, you're right, actually.
Who knows? Maybe someday we'll hit the big time and we'll actually get to do one of those. Well, that may or may not happen, but I could tell you this. We'll be up there in Minneapolis for the NFDA annual meeting. That's June 21st through the 23rd, where these ESPS sessions will be held. That's a great format where you get to sit down in a room with some people who have requested to discuss with you. It's like a speed dating, but it's not so short. It's not so speedy. I don't know what the time frame is, Bri. It's either a half hour or maybe an hour, but always productive, always highly rated. I'll be there moderating a panel. The topic is to be announced. Got the invitation. They didn't tell me what they want me to talk about yet. But that's happening June 21st through the 23rd at the NFDA annual meeting up in Minneapolis.
Okay.
Which I haven't been up that way in quite a while. I think last time I was heading over to Winona, I drove through and had a little bit of business to take care of up there, but it's been a couple of years.
Oh, yeah. No, we went up to Minneapolis, remember? See Worth up there.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Worth Adams is up there too.
Yeah.
Fastener companies are everywhere. The website, folks, for details on that, nfda-fastener.org. And we'll hear more about that later in the podcast when we hear from NFDA President Kevin Godin.
Yep.
But now it's time to hear from our friends over at Lindfast Solutions Group and Solution Industries. Kind of made it easy for them because Solution was already in the name when they bought them.
Yeah, I know. So it truly is a solutions group now.
Yeah, another company with a perpetual S problem, much like Fastener's Clearinghouse, you know.
Yeah.
Except they want to get rid of their S. So many people called Solution Industries Solutions Industries. You ever notice that?
Oh, interesting.
I'm particularly sensitive to it, you know. We're always begging people to put the S on, you know, and Solution, they'd prefer if you didn't use it. There's just got to be a happy medium here, Bri.
Yeah, I know. You're right. You're right. Well, you can just pay Google enough money and it'll come up no matter what. Okay.
Yeah, Google's got a solution to everything.
Yeah.
Let's play that interview now.
Right.
Well, it's going back a couple of months, and I was certainly surprised. I think a lot of people in the industry were surprised when we heard about the big news that Lindstrom had acquired Solution Industries. Actually, it's Lindfast. I have to be precise. Now, two guys who might not have found it such a surprise are with us now to discuss it, and they'll correct any of my misunderstandings on this and hopefully yours too. John Newman is a longtime Lindstrom and Lindfast warhorse manager, and you name it, and Tim Vath's kind of the new kid on the block, although not with Solution Industries. He's finding himself now thrust into the forefront over there as things change up. We're going to hear all about that now. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having us, Eric.
Thanks for having us.
So, John, how did this all come down? Give us the background, and then we'll jump into some of your objectives for this acquisition.
Yeah, so we sort of have an acquisition team on LSG in conjunction with the board of directors. And, you know, they're constantly looking for new acquisitions and talking about it. Unfortunately, Eric, I am not on that team. So there's only a limited amount of stuff. And, you know, obviously caught wind of the solution very late in the game, you know, right before it was announced. So it's not like myself, Bernie, or OJ had a large, you know, a large heads up of it was coming. So it was kind of a surprise for us, a great surprise, because I've seen these guys at the shows for a lot of years. And I met with Tim, and I met some other people at Solution about a week or 2 weeks after the acquisition. And it seems like a great fit for our company, and we're really enjoying them having on board at the LSG team over the last several months.
Right. Well, LSG, of course, Lindfast Solutions Group, and I guess Solutions was already in the name, so it was a natural, right? Well, no surprise there. These things do come down from on high, and then we all get the news. Tim, last time I saw you, you were standing on stage holding a bass guitar, jamming it out. That was, I think, at the, which one was it? The Fastener Fair USA in Cleveland. So you're a multi-talented guy. Now you're the new GM of Solution Industries. Welcome aboard.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that was a fun time up there. I know we had done it previously at Fastener Fair at the Rock Hall. So this time, in the convention center was nice.
That was epic. That was great. Must have been a thrill to be playing there, man.
Yeah, and I'm glad. I was surprised by the turnout and the amount of people that stuck around to kind of watch us play. So it was fun.
Needless to say, you were as shocked, but how did you feel when they told you you're going to run this place now?
Yeah, so my side is a little different. Coming from this, on the side of the small family-owned business. So I was sort of working in conjunction with our former owner, John Riddell, for a while. So didn't come up quite as fast as maybe some other people, but I've been preparing for it for a while. I guess not so much the general manager position, but once things came to be and that was put as an opportunity in front of me, it's super exciting. So kind of jumping into the fire here and been enjoying it.
Well, you may be a relative newcomer in the fastener industry, but I've watched you work over there for many years. You've certainly paid your dues, and congratulations for that. I'll just put it out there right now.
Well, I appreciate that.
John, you've been around with Lindfast too. You can fill us in on that a little bit, but where do you want to start with this? How does the solution acquisition fit into the strategy, and what other things are going on at LSG that you want to share?
Sure. So I'll let Tim give a pretty in-depth description of solution and what we're doing there. But I just want to say, after the acquisition here, we acquired the company and got a lot of good people out of it. Tim on this call right now, I mean, he's done great. A little bit about my background is I had 6 years in the military, and for us, age doesn't really equate to rank. And when you find good leaders, they really shine. So we're super excited to have Tim on board. And at the same time, we picked up somebody else from the solution team. Her name is Darlene Collis. And recently, you probably saw the announcement. We promoted her to Vice President of Quality. So we're also extremely excited about that.
Well, I appreciate all the kind words, John. And I agree, Darlene's going to do great things for LSG. She's been an awesome part of Solution, for the years that she's been here. I've kind of been with Solution forever. My mom, Laura, who's still with Solution, has worked here since the company's inception. Her and the Riddell family, who previously owned Solution, are great friends. So, with that, I've sort of been, working odd jobs and side work at Solution since, I don't know, late middle school, doing, piecework, applying patch, kit bagging. I think I was the cleaning crew at one point. So that's, sort of evolved, and I worked through the warehouse, through high school and college. And so I went to college, didn't know what I wanted to do, enjoyed math and money and business in general. So I decided to get an accounting degree. Still on the fence. And at the time, Solution needed some help in the accounting department. So I jumped on board. I wanted some real world experience. And, that was 8 years ago. I didn't know if I wanted to go into public accounting or what. And from there, it turns out I didn't want to go. So I just worked as accounting manager to assistant general manager. And here we are today. So that's
good,
sort
man.
of a little bit about my background for those who don't know me.
Well, plus you're a pretty creative guy too for an accountant, because you're also really the head screenwriter over there at Solution. And you guys come up with some of the most hilarious little vignette videos, and anybody who's seen it, who's attended one of your open houses or that birthday celebration for Riddell, that was hilarious. Some of that stuff you came up with.
Yeah, we as a company have, historically tried to inject some fun into this otherwise pretty plain industry. And like you said, the open house videos were really fun, and we had a good time kind of setting those up and coming up with ideas and editing those down. But it's a good time.
So, John, you've got a great team over there. You've got a wonderful brand. Of course, Solution's been a partner of Fully Threaded Radio for many years as well. I hope we've contributed a little bit of that to building it up. Very small part of it, of course, but LSG has got a lot of things going. Now, I've known you over the years from your work with Mega. Is there going to be any kind of a connection there, or how's that going to fit in?
Yeah, so Solution does get some quotes occasionally for mega type products. So they definitely have access to our inventory. They have access to the way we quote business. They have access to our sales team. which we're currently adding to for the Mega brand. So the answer is yes. Solution is definitely going to have access to our abilities at Mega. Prior to this, they've been using local machine shops and things like that, and they can continue to do that as well. So we're just kind of an added tool for them. So Mega, we've got a lot of good things going on right now. Like I said, we're adding to the sales team. So we have, I've hired a new sales manager for Mega. Her name is Karen Lawrence. She's coming from one of our customers, Southern Fasteners. We're really excited to have her on board. She's got 23 years experience with various different companies, including DB Roberts. So she's going to be heading up the sales team for Mega. So we're looking to build those sales, continue to build those sales up.
Refresh everyone's memory on the position that Mega fills in your lineup.
Mega is a fabrication division for LSG. So we actually have two divisions. We have one in South Carolina, which is the one everybody thinks of usually as Mega. And they do a lot of cut threads. We carry about close to $2 million worth of inventory for blanks for them. We have a CNC department, a stud department, and where our niche is medium to low volume and quick turnaround time. So our standard turnaround time is 2 to 3 days. Now, a lot of that obviously is based on volume, but we do also quote 1-day turnarounds. Sometimes we come in on the weekend if a customer needs something shipped that Saturday. We've had some funny stories where we've actually come in and put somebody on a plane to take some bolts to Canada to fill in for a customer that needed them for the pipeline up there. So we've had a lot of funny stories over the years, but that's what we get paid to do, is jump through hoops, and we're going to keep on pushing that brand as much as we can. We also have a Mega North. It's based out of our Canadian branch. It's a bit of a smaller shop than our Southern branch, but very, very similar capabilities.
Well, I'm gathering from all of this, John, that the intention is to maintain the Solution Industries identity and brand, and hopefully Solution Man himself. Is that what's going to happen?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I've heard you guys talk about it before. We've had acquisitions over the years, and some of them didn't turn out quite the way we wanted them to, at least initially. One of the ones that I know everybody spoke about and was like forefront for a long time was the Titan Fasteners acquisition.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that definitely knocked a few years off of my life, as well as some other people.
Yeah, is Trampus still figuring that one out, or what?
Yeah, Trampus is doing great now. I think it took a few years for us to get through it, but he's doing a great job for us.
He was pretty mad at me for a while, with that whole inventory thing that we kept pushing him, and
yeah, it was, like I said, it was not a pretty time for us. But we did get through it. I mean, we had a good equity partner at the time, and they were a little unique in the fact that they carried a lot of operators, like people that actually run machine shops or run distribution centers and things like that. So they did come down and help out and helped us push through that issue we had years ago. But since then, obviously, through bad acquisitions and experience, we've learned a few things. And one of those things is when we make an acquisition, we try not to make any changes until we understand, more about their business. We've got some good leaders in place like Tim, and then we don't make any radical changes. We just kind of go with the flow. And then if we make some tweaks here and there to make the company better, that's great.
Yeah, it's a solution. It's been a company quite literally, built from the ground up. It's been a really fun story and journey to be a part of. And that story was, ready for a new chapter and to be taken to the next level. And I think that's what this acquisition does. And it helps Solution, drive opportunity and growth, opportunity for Solution Industries and the resources we now have that John touched on, with access to and are supported by with, Mega, Lindstrom, Stelfast. Opportunity for our employees to be part of something larger, and just the entire group, whether it is Lindstrom, Mega, Solution, whoever, to continue to just learn from one another and find better ways to operate. Everything's been great so far. LSG has been nothing but supportive to Solution Industries, and they really respect and want us to continue the philosophies and brand that we've built through the years.
Well, I think people are always inclined to take sort of a wait-and-see approach to these things, but I think they'll be comforted in hearing what they just did and knowing that Solution Man will still be flying. Especially, I don't know, did you get wind, Tim, of John Coolhand Butler was going to put Solution Man on himself, courtesy of John Riddell? He was going to pay for it fully. And I don't know if that ever happened, but he's got to be pretty happy.
The voice of Solution Man. Yes, he wears that proudly, which I'm happy about. But
did that happen?
Well, I don't know about that. I just know he wears the title of the voice of Solution Man very proudly. But he will still be flying around the industry, so don't worry about that.
Right on.
Yeah, it was that was a kind of a different experience for us. Every company's got his logo and stuff, but Solution Man and the whole superhero theme, when we first saw it, we were like, okay, what's this about? And then you start talking to the employees and you realize it's embedded in every employee. I mean, Tim and their crew there, the actual warehouse employees, the operations team, they have to earn their shirt. So if they're a new employee, it takes so long before they're given a Solutions shirt. So it's a huge identity for them. We have no intention of changing that and take it away from them.
Yeah, and even outside of work, they're prone to like rip off their street clothes, and you know what they have on underneath.
Yeah, I was there, I don't know, one of the first couple of times I'd been there, Eric, and I was staying near the airport. So I don't know, it was a 20-minute drive. And I swang by to get some donuts for the team. And I'm sitting there in line, and here comes this guy, jumps out of his car, comes running up, and he is decked from head to toe in Solution stuff. I was like, how about that? You just don't see that a lot.
We're not shy about giving out gear and repping who we are. So that, like you said, that's kind of always been part of our culture, and to have fun with it. And I thought it was funny. The first day he was coming in here, he runs into one of our employees just repping Solution hard at a Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, love it. All right, so stepping back then, taking the wider look, John, what else is going on at LSG that Fully Threaded listeners should know about?
Sure. So one of the things, this is in combination of Solution, the QC department, we're actually looking at, Darlene is leading the way on this. We're actually expanding our quality department. Solution that is, quality is obviously big for everybody, but as an importer, and I've been doing this for 23 years, price is big. Quality is important, but when you're buying a 10 by 20 hex head, there's a lot of different manufacturers out there you can get that from. And I don't want to say you end up with poor quality, but quality is, I think the right word is maybe considered, but it's not the deciding factor. Where at Solution, quality is the deciding factor. So we've kind of taken that theme and we're running with it a little bit, and we're exploring possibly looking into an A2LA accredited lab under our name and things like that. So we're really excited about the quality part and the help that Solution is going to bring to LSG as a whole.
Seems like a smart play. During times like this where pricing is really a wild card for a variety of reasons, not playing that as your main strength seems wise.
Yeah, we're absolutely, like I said, QC is a big deal for us, and I don't think we could get a better person to lead the charge there with Darlene. I was telling our CEO when we talked about it, if we were to go out and look for a vice president of quality out in the street and accept resumes and do interviews, and Darlene were to put her information in front of us, we would have, without a doubt, hired Darlene. So it was just pure fortune on our side that we managed to pick her up.
All right. Well, double score. Now, I don't want to shift the theme of the conversation or anything, but I'll mention, as long as we're talking about LSG maintaining brands, that Stealthfast is another member of the family, and we have it from OJ over there at Stealthfast that the monkey is also being maintained. So that's another sigh of relief from the industry. Some things do stay the same, folks, at least for a little while.
Yeah, absolutely. That monkey's definitely been around a while, and I know Simi would be very upset if it were to go away. So we're going to keep that going. So another thing we've got coming up with Stelfast, and you've probably seen some advertisements in Link, is our socket brand, and we've been promoting our sockets now for several months, and we've been doing a great job with it. It's been successful for us, so we're going to continue pushing for that. And then that's with Stelfast. And on the Lindstrom brand, we've been expanding quietly into our packaged goods. So when I say packaged, they're pre-packed, 100 per, 50 per. And we've been moving that material around the country. So we have some other locations where historically that's been held out of just our South Carolina branch, or, a long time ago, the Georgia branch. Now it's moved to New York and Texas as well, and we may expand that even further. So that's something that's pretty exciting on the Lindstrom side.
You guys have your hands full over there, man. And Tim, you are learning the role of GM. Of course, you know all the little parts, but now you're putting it all together. And at the same time, somehow managing to juggle your sideline music career. How do you do it, man?
Well, a good supportive family is a good start. A good supportive team is, I guess a team in every aspect of life. But it's been a lot. It's a whirlwind of a fourth quarter for sure. But like I said, it's good opportunity. It's kind of invigorating. And I guess, maybe these last few months, the music career has taken a back seat a little bit, because I do have two little boys at home, so that they require some time too. But no, it's been fun.
Well, family first, of course. And speaking of family, wasn't your brother also in that musical ensemble that we all enjoyed?
Yeah, he's the brains behind it all. So, I'm sure we all. Well, I don't know if we are, but if you've listened to Fully Threaded Radio, you hear the jingle we had, the marching promo, and he created that, and I guess wrote and produced that little commercial, and he's a whiz. So the Vath family duo has been doing music for a long time. Not always corporate cover band stuff, but I guess if you want to hear some of our original stuff from years past, you can contact me.
So who were your musical influences then? I mean, who did you draw off of that listeners could identify with?
Oh, I mean, I hate the cliche that, we've been exposed to and listened to everything. But my parents drove us into classic rock early on. My dad's a big Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd guy. So those two are kind of core there. And as we grew up, we kind of diversified our influences, whether it's, pop, rock, hip hop, whatever it is. And then, we were big into heavy metal type music. So when I say a full spectrum, we definitely have a full spectrum.
What's the name of your band?
Oh, Lord. Skies of December.
Little cryptic meaning there I'm detecting. John, do you know anything about this?
Absolutely not, Eric.
This is the metal band. So yeah, Radiate Live is the band that everybody was listened to at Fastener Fair. So
All right. Well, I'm sensing here that we've got material for a subsequent conversation that we'll have to unleash on a more freewheeling episode of Fully Threaded. What do you say?
We got some other musicians in the industry. I know Bernie over at Lindstrom. He's itching to get.
Does he jam out?
Oh yeah.
He actually used to tour with a band.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to get him to come on stage, but he chickened out. So I don't know.
Okay, well, the stars will align eventually. I mean, I think you're right. There are a lot of closet artists out there. Charlie Kerr's one, Bruce Wheeler.
You yourself.
Traveling salesman. Yeah, I'll bust out a few licks given the right enticement, and who knows what we could get going sometime if we just put it together. How about Tripped Out? He's really good on the skins.
Oh, yeah.
So there you go. He can be the house drummer.
I was going to say, what is a skins? I guess it's a drum. All right.
It's a little musician lingo there, John.
All right.
We know a little bit outside of the fastener world, as hard as that may be, because we're so predominantly inclined. Well, John Newman with Lindfast and Tim Vath with Solution Industries, now with Lindfast. This has been an enlightening conversation. I'm glad we finally got to do it, and congratulations on all the excitement that's going on over there. Sounds like you're positioned well.
Yeah, I appreciate the invite, Eric. It's been a pleasure. Hopefully we can do it again at some point.
Yeah, I appreciate you having us on. It's been nice to, I've been listening for quite a few years, so honored to be graced with the invite.
Anytime, gentlemen. You're great partners. We appreciate that. And we appreciate all of you folks out there listening in. We'll be back momentarily with more Fully Threaded Radio.
Solution Man, Ken.
Solution Man, you're my fastener hero.
Just doing my job, ma'am.
SOLUTION, SOLUTION. Solution Industry. We are Solution.
Since 1905, Buckeye Fasteners and the Ohio Nut and Bolt Company have been supplying the world with high-quality fasteners. Our standard product lines include weld fasteners, braided weld screws, leg levelers, self-clinching hardware, clevis pins, rivet nuts, and various other fastener lines, allowing us to support virtually all types of industries. BuckeyeFasteners.com. Buckeye Fasteners, more than just weld.
Are you tired of empty promises from software vendors? Are you paying for support that you're not receiving? Is it time for another paid upgrade? There is a solution. InSequel delivers quality software designed for the fastener industry at an affordable price with industry-leading support. Quality software, affordable pricing, industry-leading support. Only InSequel can deliver all three. www.inxsql.com.
Parker Fasteners is your premier cold heading manufacturer, forging the future with precision and quality as our top priority. When you think of domestically produced sockets and tamper-proof screws from alloy and stainless, including A286, think Parker Fasteners. Forge the future with Parker Fasteners. Visit Parker Fasteners online today at parkerfasteners.com.
This is George Hunt III from Brighton Best International, and you're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
Brian and Eric back with you, augmenting your fastener reality one episode at a time.
Okay, so no Oculus required.
Never. We would never ask that of our listeners, Bri. There's got to be a few screws in that thing, though, right?
Yeah, they're probably ones you can't possibly undo yourself without some special tool.
Well, apparently, I was just looking during the break. A lot of people apparently don't want hydrogen embrittlement in their reality, virtual or otherwise. I was looking at the Worth Knowing episodes, out on YouTube.
Yep.
And you would have guessed that hydrogen embrittlement would be a pretty popular one, but by far it was their most popular episode that they've done so far.
Wow, because you probably had half the listeners.
Yeah, get back to episode 163, folks, and check out Randy Lammers and Aaron Keevan of Worth when they joined us. That was the episode entitled Worth Hearing.
Yeah.
Of course, they're the hosts of Worth Knowing, the popular YouTube. What do you even call that, Brian? It's not a podcast.
It's a channel.
It's a channel. Yeah. YouTube channel by Worth. It's the news segment, everybody. That's newsworthy. This time, Mike McNulty will be joined by Kelly Cole of Hayes Bolt. They'll pour over the first FDI numbers of the year. And we've got a special guest coming up here in a moment, Brian. We're going to introduce him in a minute. Just want to remind everybody the news is brought to us today by Volt Industrial Plastics, and the title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio are Brighton Best International, Global Fasteners, and Star Stainless. We mentioned last episode, Bri, that we've got the, what is it? It's not the Tough Mudder race coming up, Bri. It's like the Insane Idiot, or what did we call it?
It could be any of those things. Okay.
Anyway, folks, if you want to get in on a really fun, somewhat brutal obstacle race with some of your best fastener friends, or make a few new fastener friends, that's happening August 20th in connection with the MWFA Fastener Week. This will kick it all off. You can join the 3 Gs, GH3, GQ, and gee, this coffee is fantastic, Jake Valdez Davis.
Right.
of BTM Manufacturing. Drop us an email at ftr@fullythreaded.com. We'll get you all the information you need to get signed up with that. Haven't decided if you're on board with that yet, huh, Bri?
No, I haven't decided yet. I'll sort of see. I could bring an armchair and sit and watch, okay?
Well, you and the lovely and talented Lynn Dempsey did a great job last year taking all the photos of us. So either way, we come out ahead with that one. Let's get to our guest now. This is something of a change of pace for us, Bri.
Well, we like changes of pace. That's good.
There's a new voice that you'll be hearing from time to time, actually probably almost every episode in the near future on Fully Threaded Radio, everybody. He's going to be joined by a cast of characters eventually, but we're going to allow him to make his debut right now. He's coming to us courtesy of Star Stainless, one of our fine title sponsors, and I guess this will be pretty self-explanatory as soon as we introduce our new good buddy, Stan. Hey, Stan, you out there?
Stan the Screw, live and well. Coming to you live from Studio A.
Really?
That's it. That's me.
We've got him salted all over the fastener sphere, and welcome. What brings you here today? Why did we get this request to have you on the podcast today? You're more than welcome, and tell us all about it.
Well, I don't know if anybody knows this, but I've been around since like 1970, but it was always, in print. Finally, after 50 years, I get to talk. And I'm here to just, remind everybody who Star Stainless is and why we've been around so long. Our commitment to customers, employees, product, the whole thing.
Stan the Screw from Star Stainless. Welcome aboard, my friend.
Yay. Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
So you've been around for 50 years in print and you're making your podcast debut. That's what I heard you say.
Yes, exactly. They brought me to life. Wayne created me, back in 1970. And everybody knows who Wayne Golden is. And I've been around on all sorts of, mailers and ads and things like that. And they gave me a voice. So now I'm here, and hopefully I can do Star Stainless some justice here.
What thread are you? Unified National Fine, of course.
Of course. Definitely course.
Not on this podcast, you won't be. Squeaky clean, remember?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Well, give us a little bit more background on what you've been doing all these 50 years and what we can expect to hear from you as we go forward, because as I understand it, you're going to be dropping in on us fairly regularly along with a cast of characters, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Where do we start with this?
Well, basically, as unprepared as I am, no, for me, like I said earlier, for my job is to step in now and then, let everybody know either about new products, new trends in the industry, things that are coming our way, things that I know about that, that we used to be in print, but now I can reinforce that with my new voice here on the podcast with you two guys, and kind of just keep abreast of everything, especially in this crazy world, and especially with all the supply chain things that are going on, people are concerned about. We can address a lot of stuff here by that and put people's minds at ease and do that sort of thing.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing this unfold. So I guess you're not going to drop a dime on any of your colleagues coming our way. You're going to keep the suspense, which is fine. And thanks for mentioning Wayne Golden. We haven't talked about him on the podcast recently, and he, of course, was a giant in the fastener industry, the founder of Star Stainless.
Exactly.
You can get out to globalfastenernews.com. I believe that there's still a article there when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame. John's got a search function on that page. You can check out one in particular.
The 6 Golden Rules?
That was it. Yeah, the 6 Golden Rules. So check that one out, everybody, and you can come up to speed. Maybe that'll give us a little more insight to some of the things that Stan will be laying on us. But Welcome aboard, my friend.
Hey, it's good to be here. It's been a long time, been waiting a long time, and all excited about it. And I'm sure every time we get here, it'll just get a little more interesting as we go, especially with some other characters that are going to show up now and then, and they will be quite entertaining and hopefully knowledgeable at the same time.
Good. We like that. Bit of knowledge every now and again. Not too much, just a bit.
Right.
Yeah, Brian's here to keep you honest, Stan. Just giving you a heads up.
Okay, good. Yeah. Well, I can tell by his accent. He's kind of a straight shooter, so.
Yeah, they mean the very strict Texan part of it.
Yeah, you know how they are in Texas.
I couldn't put my finger on it, but yeah, that's Texan, isn't it? Yeah.
Deep South, very deep South.
Stand the screw, everybody. And as is our custom around here, we always like to give our guests the opportunity to introduce the news, which we will do, as he, I'm sure, is going to take that opportunity also to throw out the STAR tagline. Take it away, Stan.
Well, thanks, everybody. Remember, we use common sense at STAR. From the mouths of Wayne and Yogi, you can't think and hit at the same time. So, just hit. Batters up. It's STAR. And now, with news you can use about screws, here's Mike McNulty.
I have to think on that one.
Thank you, Stan. This is Mike McNulty from Fastener Technology International Magazine, bringing you the Fastener News Report, which is sponsored by Volt Industrial Plastics, makers of the world's finest plastic fasteners. We are recording this edition of the Fastener News Report just 2 days before the National Football League's 2022 Super Bowl, which just happens to be the 56th straight year of the Cleveland Browns not being involved in it, and this year the big game takes place just 1 day before the Feast of St. Valentine, also known as Valentine's Day. But I am still focused on fasteners and ready to deliver today's Fastener News Report. In this episode, Kelly Cole, Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of Hayes Bolt, joins us to reveal the latest results of the Fastener Distributor Index, also known as the FDI. Also in today's broadcast, we have our top story on Volt Industrial Plastics, as well as newsmaker headlines from Fabry, McLean Fogg, K-Max, AFC, TriFast, Rick Rudolph Associates, Gobel Fasteners, Northeast Fasteners, DB Roberts, and more. On the back page report, we're going to talk about snow. We'll get to all of that and the latest FDI results right after this.
My name is Joseph Otrower. We got really good people. Work ethic, you know. You do a little more than what you're getting paid for. You know, I'm a great believer in that. That's how you get ahead.
We are Volt.
If you grow too fast, you can go broke real quick. And growing too slow is not as dangerous, but it's boring.
We are Volt.
We know how to build the tools, and if you don't have the tools, you can't do anything.
Volt Industrial Plastics, makers of the world's finest plastic fasteners.
This is Jake Davis, founder of the industry-renowned U-Bolt Blend Coffee and president of BTM Manufacturing. As a domestic manufacturer of threaded fasteners and bent wire products, our history as a family-owned business runs deep. My father, Joe Davis Jr., started in the fastener distribution industry over 50 years ago and has always instilled exceptional customer service into myself and our employees. Over the years, we've expanded our production facility to accommodate more projects, added machinery and tooling to increase our productivity, and increased our knowledge of products consistent with industry changes. However, one constant has always been our customer service focused mentality. In an imperfect world, we always strive to put our customers first. It's the way I was taught, and it's the way I've continued to operate our business. BTM Manufacturing, a commitment to service.
Hi, this is Bob Chiricosta, Event Director for the Fastener Fair USA show. I wanted to let you know that registration is now open for Fastener Fair 2022, May 17th through 19th, and this year it's held in Detroit. Exhibitors know that Detroit always brings in automotive engineers and buyers that don't attend other events, and we're excited about our networking parties, including a return to the GM World Headquarters at the Renaissance Center on Wednesday night. Be sure to register today for the Close By Fastener Show in Detroit at FastenerFairUSA.com. I'll see you there.
You're listening to Mike McNulty's Fastener News Report on Fully Threaded Radio.
The seasonally adjusted Fastener Distributor Index for January 2022 was 52.7, down 3.5 percentage points from the previous month's result of 56.2. The second straight month of decline, but firmly above the 50-point mark. Fastener Distributor Index data is collected and analyzed by the FCH Sourcing Network and Baird. The FDI seeks to identify demand, pricing, and outlook trends within the American fastener distribution industry. To get some insight on these results, we talked to Kelly Cole, VP and Chief Operating Officer of Hayes Bolt in San Diego, California. Hi, Kelly. Thanks for joining us on the Fastener News Report.
Oh, hey, great to see you. Great to hear from you.
Always good to talk to you.
Yeah, good to have you back on the program. I think you were last on last May of 2021, so it's been a few months. Good to have you back.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
So the FDI took a little bit of a drop, and still in a good solid area. But what do you think about the latest FDI results?
I think they hit home with a lot of what we're seeing as well. We expected a lot more robust January, and it fell off. I think there were some supply chain issues, obviously, that we're all experiencing some of that, the delays in material and finished goods. But it was unusually soft. I think COVID is keeping everybody at home. With the people that I've spoken to here in San Diego, I think we all experienced about a 25% loss of employee coverage for most of January. A lot of people were just home. I think that had a lot to do with it. It wasn't that we couldn't get material as much as it was that they didn't have people to produce product. So that showed in our numbers.
Yeah, that definitely was taking place in January. Fortunately, that seems to be reversing itself now and going away. So hopefully that's the end.
Yeah, I've got everybody back. So it's good and we're busy. So, knock on wood there.
Yeah, because in the report, January is typically a really strong month, so that was part of the reason why it was down. Is that the seasonal adjustment? It wasn't as good a January as it usually is.
Yeah, when we had a strong December, which was kind of unusual because of last year, we had to shut down over Christmas because of COVID. Just the unknowing of getting everybody exposed. We had 4 people that were out. So that had a lot to do with it, but I think people are aware of what's going on. I think maybe they're being a little bit more cautious. It was kind of unusual, or I don't know if it's unusual, but in the numbers here, when you go back down to the performance of your examples, how a lot of the safety equipment and those kind of goods kept their numbers really high, and it's amazing that the stocks have doubled since 2 years ago when all this is gone. I mean, it's solid for that side of the business. But
yeah, that definitely saw a lot of increased activity there, and maybe if things work themselves out and everybody comes back to work, that maybe February and March will be pretty big FDI numbers. We'll see.
Yeah, let's hope so. The material. We just talking to a friend of mine at Socket Source, Paul Vittori, and we are both kind of shaking our heads at the material shortages. It seems that we don't understand why it's so difficult to get 316 stainless 8286. I don't see everybody in the industry, and based on the numbers that I see here too. I mean, we're not shipping that much more material than you'd think that we would be shipping based on the shortages and the lead times. And the guys are telling you that it used to be 4 to 6 weeks. They're telling you 8 to 12, 12 to 14. And I've got some 17.7 material that I haven't been able to get for 12 weeks. That was from multiple suppliers. They're all quoting the same things. And we're just kind of scratching our heads and say, well, where's all this material going? And, it's unusual to see so many domestic suppliers have such a lead time on raw materials. It makes you think, well, where's all this material going from an ingot perspective? Is it being used in other areas of manufacturing that we're just not seeing yet? Or maybe they're buying material for things that are going to be built later on, that they're accumulating for long lead time stuff. There's a lot of military spending that's futuristic. Think about Intel is going to build a plant. They're going to spend $2 billion, $5 billion, something like that.
In Ohio.
And how much steel material is going to be used for that? That's got to be forward planned a year or 2, 3 years in advance. So it's like, where's the raw material going? That's making it difficult for our wire and coil producers to get their hands on material.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of mysteries out there on supply chain and labor and spending and just
labor's not a problem. You just had to up the ante to get it.
Yeah,
that's been the problem here in San Diego. They were making it tough on us for the past 4 years, raising the minimum wage in San Diego. They had their own more aggressive approach to the minimum wage increase. So they were a little ahead of the state, but that presented itself as a 5-year challenge. But now it's with everything that's going on, it's just compounded it to where you've got, McDonald's and, you're competing against Del Taco out here in McDonald's and, and they're all starting at $18, $19 to $20 an hour, to flip burgers. And why would a guy want to work in a warehouse when he can, do something like that part-time?
Well, because you don't go home smelling like a burger.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah. But there's a lot of competition for that kind of, worker. And there's a lot of people that just don't want to work.
Well, that's the mysterious part to me. A challenging trend.
Yeah, the new generation, they don't want to buy houses. They don't want to own big stuff. You see all this miniaturization of housing, and it's kind of spooky.
Yeah, just living on a screen world.
Yeah, go get a container and convert it, right?
Well, it's funny you say that. And we're getting way off track here, but I was at the barber shop this weekend, and that's what the guy cutting my hair. He's probably in his 20s. He said he wants to get a container and make a house. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's not any shipping containers available.
Oh, there's plenty of guys that are doing that stuff.
Oh, well, we just go with the flow and see what happens, right?
Yeah.
All right, well, let's jump into some of the numbers here. The sales number dropped to 64.5 after being above 70 for 2 straight months, November and December. You mentioned that December was a strong month. So the end of 2021 was pretty strong, and January kind of wimped out a little bit, and that kind of ties into what you were saying. And then the forward-looking indicator, also known as the FLI, that also came down a little bit to 62.8. That's the 5th straight month of reduced results, but still basically a positive outlook. Above 60 is pretty positive outlook looking forward. Then in the survey, we always ask, Eric and Barrett always ask people to look at 6 months down the road, and that number seemed to temper and continue on a gradual decline. We had 33%, or a third of the people responding saying they expect results or business to be higher in a half a year. 57% expected to be the same, and 10 expected to be lower. But I'd say 57, that's still together. If you add those first two numbers together, that's 90% expected to be like it is now or better. So that's pretty positive, even though it's gradually declined.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I agree with the survey. I mean, it seems kind of flat, where there's not a lot of movement. Yeah, I mean, it's still positive, but it just shows concern is all, I think.
Concerned about material, concerned about
yeah, because I think every day we come in, we don't know what's going to hit us.
Right. Is the stock market bubble going to explode, or the housing market?
Yeah, I mean, you add in external forces like that, and COVID. I just come to work every morning and I just kind of say, okay, what's new going to happen today?
Mm-hmm.
I'm responding to things rather than being You try to be on track with things that are going to help your business, thrive. And then there's a distraction that gets in your way that you can't avoid. It's out of your control almost,
Right.
And especially when it's employee related, because, they're your biggest asset, right? So we spent the last year just culture development, because, it's like everybody, we care about you. We need you, what can we do to help make your lives better right now when you're all stressing out because your kids can't go to school and your kids are wearing masks and
that's stressful.
Just all of that stuff. It's the same thing with suppliers. We haven't seen our suppliers in very often. The association marketplace is down and virtual. I think a few things have been live. The struggles with pricing and inventory. It's every day. Like I said, it's something different. The port out here in California has been incredibly slow, and all the prices I've seen invoices for our customs invoices, and they've all gone up sky high. So
a lot of challenges.
Yeah, it's something new every day.
Okay, well let's move on to the FDI survey respondent commentary. Looks like strong demand, ongoing supply problems, and fatigue were on the minds of the FDI survey respondents this month. And one respondent said, quote, customer schedules remain erratic due to various material shortages. Like you were saying, supplier deliveries and lead times remain an impediment to sales growth and new program startups, end quote. So it's creeping into people wanting to, come up with some expansion, new products, new programs, but they can't because they can't get the materials.
Mm-hmm.
Another participant commented, quote, customers are busy and fatigued. They are having a hard time keeping up, end quote. And that's the thing that jumps out to me is the fatigue factor.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was it's kind of what I was mentioning. the people are, your employees are tired of the
putting out a fire
changes.
every day.
Yeah, putting out a fire, the fatigue, frustration. Yeah, and we're seeing that with our customers too, because we're all going through the same thing. They're not pissed off at you for not making a delivery. Really, it's because they know that we're all operating at 20 to 30% off of our employee base. This last couple months, so we're all struggling with the same thing and all trying to do a good job. The point that he made is customers are busy and fatigued. They're having a hard time keeping up because they're not able to deliver product. So everybody's doing everything they can.
Right.
But we're all trying. I think when I talk to our customers, everyone's really understanding of the situation. They all know that there's prices increases because they're paying more at the store. They're paying, their lives are impacted. So when you call them and say, hey, this particular product, you didn't use it for a year because of the slowdown, and now I'm replacing that inventory and it's 30% higher. So they're like, okay, may I have another, that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe one benefit of, there's better relationships between customers and suppliers are one possible benefit of all this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I said last time I was on with you, if it wasn't for really great suppliers, I think a lot of us would have felt this, a lot harder. And I know that we were trying to make up for the difference of that because our relationships are what really make a difference in times like these. And as we improve, and things go back to somewhat of a normalcy, you're going to really be proud of those relationships. So really looking forward to getting together with people at personal events and things.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the virtual stuff's okay in a pinch, but nothing beats getting face to face with people and getting out and seeing what's going on.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
All right. Well, now this month we had some special supplemental questions put together by the FCH sourcing network that focused on blockchain technology. And the results were that 93% of respondents did not feel their understanding of blockchain technology is adequate to evaluate its impact on their business. And only 14% are utilizing or planning to utilize blockchain systems to support supply chain operations. And finally, only 3% of the respondents are aware of any customers or suppliers deploying these blockchain systems. So a lot of people don't know what's going on, and that kind of leads into the questions generated. One of my now all-time favorite respondent comments was, quote, "I have no idea what blockchain is," end quote. So Kelly, can you educate us on blockchain technology and give the listeners your take on it for the fastener industry?
Yeah, no, I'm not the guy. What I've read and what I've researched is still confusing to me, and how it works and how it rolls out and how and when it's deployed. But I kind of agree with the 97% that don't know what the heck it even does or how it's going to impact them, because I think it's so far into the banking system,
right,
and at places that aren't even going to affect us because of we're so far down in the financial transaction. It's almost like we're doing cash out the front door still in that kind of world.
People aren't buying their fasteners with Venmo.
Yeah, they might. I mean, you never know. I mean, I think that 14% you're talking about are probably the guys that are indexed down here that are moving large sums of cash and borrowing and lending and and all these things that may impact them at some point earlier on. They may be wanting to jump on the crypto coin, sooner from a, I don't know, investment standpoint. They're probably a lot more vested in real estate, where those transactions will impact them or how they use it. I don't necessarily see it with the global supply chain in my world anyway. I still can't get them to accept payment after I receive the material from overseas. So what good's blockchain going to help? I mean, it could, but
yeah,
my bank still wants me to come down there and make ACHs in person.
I mean, the way I look at it, it's kind of like a thing, where people are involved in making, distributing, selling, using fasteners. And if, there's different ways to pay for those services and that are more convenient and more, different ways to do it, fine. That we'll adopt those technologies as needed to get paid to deliver fasteners.
Yeah, I mean, you think back, we were doing wires 20 years ago for product, and wires is still something that people struggle with. The ACHs, the means of how that's done is still kind of messy. Doing day-to-day transactions, it almost makes it easier just to get a check. So and
Right.
and Venmo and Zelle and all of these other types of payment systems, PayPal, they're all beginning to charge fees for things because they see the marketplace moving to a cashless system, but people don't want to do it for free.
Right. And there's some companies that we deal with. They won't let them pay by PayPal. Because you're paying. I mean, it's 3% or whatever. By credit card, same thing. Certain percentage that you're paying, but that can add up. So
right.
I mean, you trade off the speed and convenience and mindlessness of it, but it costs some money.
Right. And I use those services all the time myself, and it's just there's a convenience to it. Kind of the one nice thing about it is the people asking you for 25, 50 cents at the gas stations nowadays has gone down because no one's carrying cash.
Yeah, they don't want right. You hand them a gift card, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's like I say, the technology moves, and I heard that all the Super Bowl fans out there, we're recording this before the Super Bowl. I don't know if it'll air after the Super Bowl, but I know that cryptocurrency websites and providers are making a big spend at the Super Bowl this year. So
yeah, I saw an article this morning. I didn't get a chance to read it, but there was some kind of negative take on it too.
Yeah, you got Matt Damon saying you got to be brave and use crypto. And
oh wow. I guess if you got the kind of money he's got laying around, you can afford it, right? I heard a commercial on the radio yesterday. It was a finance, lending company saying take $50,000 out of your house so you can invest in, Bitcoin or crypto, and I'm like, what guy in his right mind is doing an advertisement telling somebody to borrow money to risk in the market
to make a wager? You basically,
yeah.
You can bet on the Super Bowl. You can bet on crypto. You can bet on horses. You can bet on the stock market. So,
yeah.
But, yeah. Anyways, I mean, that's interesting. Those results were interesting that many people were like, we don't know what's going on. And I'm just going to subscribe to the thing. I like to say I'm focused on fasteners. And if we can use certain technologies to make, buy, and sell and use fasteners easier, that's fine with me.
Yeah. And I agree with that. I agree with that. I think, we're probably many years away from it being something, in our day-to-day world here.
Well, and there's also something good still about, using regular old school technology too. I have a thing I do in another industry that I manage, a small trade association, and we still send out our dues invoices by mail. And I like putting those American flag stamps on there because it's all American.
Well, it's funny that you say that because, and when I was on the board of directors for the NFDA and PacWest and LAFA over the years, we all sat here and go, well, why do we need these mailers and why do we need to send invoices? Can't we just, collect it all electronically? And there was a comment made by somebody that says, well, some guys just get these things in the mail and they sit them right in front of their desk. And they say that's their reminder. And I'm staring here looking at my spring conference tabletop show invitation. And I realized that I've got only till February 25th to get my early bird discount. And it's true. I could have it on my calendar waiting for a reminder, or I could have a piece of little cardboard just right here saying save the date as my reminder, And some of us, that's just old school thinking, school way of doing stuff that works, So why change something that's not broken? Even though it's more, there's electronic means and other ways to do things that are high tech. Some things just work better. And it's like a fax machine, you still got to have a fax machine because you got to be able to send your signatures in original form to banks, but I'm sure they're going to, DocuSign will figure out a way to eliminate that here someday.
Well, and we have members that just want to do it electronically, and that's fine. And then we have other people, they just we want to send you a check. We don't want to pay the extra $10 or whatever on $300 in dues.
Right. So. And I still wanted that employee sitting there doing that laborious work. So they don't have to sit there and just plug into my ATM machine.
I mean, the same thing with our magazine. We publish the magazine in print format and digital format, and whatever format people want to get it, that's how we'll deliver it.
Well, it makes it easy because you create it in digital now, so it's kind of almost a convenience to do it that way, and then you print it for those who need it, so you've reduced your print recycling and everything else, which is good. It's a good keeping the footprint of the globe, better.
Yeah, and I know lots of the people who are making fasteners have these machines, and they have all their manuals are online now or in PDF format, or they're tracking certifications. I know there was some big news came out of that. One of the suppliers of certifications is providing digital certifications for their fasteners. So
Yeah, that's all good stuff. Speaking of recycling and stuff like that, there's a company called 4Ocean. The number 4 in the word ocean. And they started about 5 years ago taking plastic out of the ocean over in Bali. They have a lot of runoff in Bali because of all the rain, and all this plastic would accumulate. So they started this company, and what they do is they take the plastic and they recycle it, and they make beaded bracelets, and they theme each bracelet every month up from an oceanic creature. So whether it be a great white and it's kind of neat because I wear them in support of that as a charity of my choice, and it's kind of neat that and now they're global. They're making tennis shoes out of recycled plastic. They're making lots of jewelry figures and things like that. But it's just a good cause, and I think the world is ready for a kind of a cleansing of all these old methods and habits. So like paper and plastic and coming up with alternative materials to plastic that's
reuse it,
more reusable. Yeah. So reusable energy, all that stuff's good, but you got to do it in moderation because it comes at a cost. I think we're all seeing that today.
Yeah. And use some common sense, like these people taking it and making something out of it.
Yeah. You can't all have all of your eggs in one basket, right? You got to kind of wean yourself off of one and move into the other, or else you cause commotion. I think that's what we're seeing today. As long as I keep the ocean clean, I can go diving.
There you go. Well, that's going to be one of my next questions. I was going to ask you about what's going on at Hayes Bolt and Supply, as well as with you personally. I know you, your LinkedIn photo has you in scuba gear and has I think a hammerhead shark on there. So tell us about Hayes and tell us about the ocean.
Yeah. So the diving is going very well. I went on a nice dive down to Costa Rica, off the coast of Costa Rica, to an island called Cocos Island. And we did it was a 12-day adventure. We did 7 days of diving, 3-4 dives a day, down to see all the hammerhead sharks that populate that area down there year round, really. And that was an amazing trip. I mean, saw things I've never seen before, and experienced some diving that is just one of those bucket list things. So in January of next year is our next big dive trip that we've got planned, a big one.
23.
We're going down to, in 23, we're going to Socorros Island, which is southwest of Cabo. So we're going to take another aggressive sail, or not a sailboat, but a large yacht, and then with about 30 people, and go down there and dive that for a week. And that's a big habitat for your giant manta rays and things like that. Lots of sharks. So it's a lot of fun.
Do they keep their distance, these sharks and manta rays?
No, the giant mantas will come in. They're pretty friendly. I've only seen 2, but and that was down there off the coast of Costa Rica. We saw one about an 18-foot wingspan, very large, but exciting. Real exciting to see them. And then lots of reef sharks, and hopefully we'll see some tiger sharks and maybe some Galapagos sharks. There's usually a lot of those down there that time of year, so we're excited about it. A lot of fun.
Wow, that sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah. So Hayes is doing well. Like I said earlier, we've been really developing our culture to be helpful to one another. Remain family, give everyone the benefit of the doubt. Wherever we can, and have everybody have a sense of responsibility toward each other, so that we all know when someone's fatigued or feeling a little worn out, you got somebody backing you up. So that's been a real thing that we've really worked on is trying to keep everybody in focus about each other, and I think that's most important.
And I'm looking at your website, which is at hayesbolt.com, and it's got your hot logo there. It stands for Hayes On Time, Vendor Managed Inventory Program.
Yeah, hardware on time. We trademarked that about 5 years ago, and we utilize it, and that's what we call our system. We've got a number of different methods that we do this, but we like to keep it hot, and customers, we give them jaw breakers that are the hot jaw breakers and hot tamales, and we try to spice it up and let them have some fun with it. So. Yeah, so hot really means something, to your taste buds too.
Well, that's pretty clever. Good way to tie it in and keep it going. All right, good. You said you were hoping to get out in person, and you guys are involved in different associations, PacWest and NFPA.
Yeah, matter of fact, PacWest is coming up here in March. It's the March 16th through 18th, and I'm actually going to be on a panel.
Okay.
I better look this up and see what I'm talking about.
See what you're going to talk about.
There we go. KPI development and strategies. So, I measure everything. That's one thing that we do very well here at Hayes is statistical analysis on, is on-time shipping, customer satisfaction. We spend a lot of time making sure that we measure things that are important to every department. On-time receiving, getting stock put away correctly, a lot of things like that. Inventory in the right places. So I think it's going to be a good discussion at the panel. I'm talking about how to develop KPIs and have them be something that your employees participate in rather than just be handed this is what I want from you and this is how well you're going to do it. You've got to engage people and have them be part of your engagement with the KPI so that they have something at stake and that they feel that they're in control of that win and not just somebody else sticking it down in their throat.
Yeah, the whole program looks pretty good. We've got a 4-page article on the PacWest conference and tabletop show that you're talking about that takes place in March, and that'll be in the February-March issue of Fastener Technology International.
Very good.
And it looks like a good program, a good mix of content and social activities and exhibitors.
Yeah, it's going to be a really good time.
A fatigue buster.
Yeah. Well, hopefully everybody relaxes. Last time I went to this was 2 years ago. COVID had just started to break out. And it was coming out of everybody coming from Washington. Everybody was wanting them to stay away.
Super spreaders.
Yeah. We were gonna stick Jim Law in a bubble.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it'll be a good event. I have a conflict. I'm not going to be attending, but it sounds like you guys are going to have a good time out there.
Oh, that's too bad. We'll have to catch up to you soon.
Yeah, I'll be going to Detroit for the Fastener Fair USA in May, and then out to Las Vegas, I think, in October.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Well, hopefully that shows that we get to see everybody there this year.
Hopefully. Good. All right. Well, we've covered a lot of ground here, and I want to thank you for joining us to talk about the FDI and as well as blockchain and Hayes Bolt and scuba diving.
Well, I appreciate the time. It's always interesting to hear what's going on and get your perspective on things, and I really enjoy it. So thanks, Mike.
You're welcome. That was Kelly Cole. He's the Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of Hayes Bolt. The FDI number for January was 52.7, down 3.5 points from the previous month's result of 56.2. Visit FDIsurvey.com to participate in the process and get a detailed PDF copy of Baird's monthly analysis. Now for today's top story. Volt Industrial Plastics in Yellville, Arkansas, reports that it is growing by expanding its facility size from 60,000 square feet to over 100,000 square feet. Groundbreaking took place in January 2022, and the work is expected to be complete this summer. For nearly 3 decades, Volt has been offering high-quality custom fastener solutions. Volt Industrial's state-of-the-art production methods allow it to deliver the exact quantity of parts that are ordered in an affordable, timely manner. Competitively priced in both the national and global markets, Volt Industrial Plastics American-made fasteners include screws, nuts, clips, rivets, dowels, washers, spacers, and many others. The company says that it is production-driven, but its business is not simply about filling orders. Volt places the utmost importance on customer service. You can see a groundbreaking picture on page 102 of the February-March 2022 issue of Fastener Technology International magazine. We spoke to Heidi Voltrauer, and she had this to say about their groundbreaking ceremony.
We are adding 36,000 square feet to our current facility, and that will make our total size just over 100,000 square feet. We are going to move CNC tooling on the front end of the building for part of that square footage. we're going to expand our warehouse and production. Warehouse and production are where we need the most expansion right now. So we're really excited to be able to house more machines and get more product out the door and also have more inventory available for our customers. 2021 basically came in like a wrecking ball with sales, so we were actually planning on doing this edition in 2023, but because of those sales demands of 2021, we had to move that date up rapidly. But we're all so excited about this edition and really excited about 2022 and where things are going for Volt.
Next up, today's Fastener Newsmaker headlines. In acquisition, expansion, and funding news, Fabry agreed to acquire the Fastener division of Importanox in Portugal. McLean Fogg launched the Threadstrong line of Made in the USA aftermarket wheel fasteners. HIG Capital purchased a majority stake of Berardi Bulinori in Italy. K-Max in Germany took on a majority of the shares in the coating specialist Galal in Spain. Oxo Investment Partners acquired Securit Metal Products. AFC Industries purchased Oregon Bolt and Askew Industrial Corporation. TriFast increased its European manufacturing capacity, and Aramid Technologies raised $2 million in seed funding to expand its flagship product, SmartCert. In personnel and representation news, Rick Rudolph Associates was named manufacturer's representative for Gobel Fasteners. Mike Olowski was promoted to President and Chief Operating Officer of Simpson Manufacturing. Preston Boyd joined the Industrial Fasteners Institute staff as manager of the Industrial Products Division. G.L. Hewitt added Brian Sidney Smith as Northeastern Regional Sales Manager. Martin Van Linter became the president of Northeast Fasteners, and the Bostwich Braun Company announced the retirement of Bill Millard, general manager of its Southern Hardware Division. And in 2022 milestone news, Staffa Fasteners is 45 years old, Bolhoff turned 145 this year, and D.B. Roberts is celebrating 40 years of being in business. You can get details on all of these stories and more in Fastener Technology International Magazine and the Fastener News Report monthly newsletter, both available online at fastenertech.com. Now let's turn to the back page to talk about snow. In the middle of last January, I took a long look at my stagnant snowblower, dry shovel, and year-old half-full bag of rock salt and wondered if they would go unused for the Ohio winter season of 2021 and 2022. Just a few days later, I got my answer as two massive storms and several in-between snowfalls dumped about 3 feet of beautiful ice-cold white snow on our houses, lawns, streets, driveways, and sidewalks. We've spent many hours digging out of it, and depending on your disposition, enjoying, tolerating, or despising the frozen winter blanket that really looks spectacular, especially when it's contrasted by sunlight or moonlight. I always like to walk when there is snow on the ground, and when I was younger, I liked to play in it, throw balls of it at people and cars, bumper hitch in it, and turn station wagon donuts in parking lots covered in it. But now that I'm grown, I have to confess that one of my favorite snow activities is removing it from my driveway, porch, steps, and sidewalks, as well as digging paths in the backyard and on the deck so that Zeke, my fastener dog, can patrol the yard for intruders. All of the tools that I use for doing this are held together by fasteners, ones that are able to withstand cold, snow, ice, vibration, impact, mistreatment, and salt. In addition to the ones found in snowblowers and on shovels, loads of climate-tolerant fasteners are used in snowplow trucks as well as in the equipment for loading rock salt into them. So I say hats off to the people and companies that make these fasteners and snow and ice removal products, as well as to the folks that keep our streets and highways clear. And congratulations to anyone that got snowed on this winter. And for everyone that loathes, avoids, flees, or seeks to banish snow, I offer a few verses from the Song of the Three Young Men recorded in the ancient book of Daniel. Every shower and dew, bless the Lord. All you winds, bless the Lord. Fire and heat, bless the Lord. Cold and chill, bless the Lord. Dew and rain, bless the Lord. Frost and chill, bless the Lord. Ice and snow, bless the Lord. Nights and days, bless the Lord. Light and darkness, bless the Lord. Lightnings and clouds, bless the Lord. Let the earth bless the Lord. And now for some snow-related back page bonus questions. Did you know that the Winter Olympics have been staged 24 times in the last 98 years? And did you know that 3 winter resort locations have hosted 2 of these snow-covered athletic showcases? St. Moritz in France, Innsbruck in Austria, and Lake Placid in the USA. And on the warmer weather side of the year, did you know that 29 Summer Olympics have taken place in 23 different locations over the last 126 years? London leads the way, hosting 3 different times, while Paris, Los Angeles, Athens, and Tokyo have each staged 2 of the summer spectacles. And did you know that only one city on Earth has ever hosted both the Summer and the Winter Olympic Games? And that distinction goes to Beijing, China, which is awarded this status by the International Olympic Committee, also known as the IOC, in the relatively short time span of 14 years. Does it seem odd that Beijing is hosting the 2022 Winter Olympics, and not just because it averages less than 1 inch of snow each February? Just why has the morally elitist IOC gifted these events and international status and acclaim that they bring to an autocratic regime that has given the world a global pandemic, as well as a blueprint model for police state lockdowns and monitoring, not to mention decades of disregard for human dignity, privacy, autonomy, intellectual property, and the rules of fair trade? I think that it is obvious to most people in the world that the IOC and many of its virtue-signaling corporate sponsors are simply too much in love and addicted to the massive revenue streams coming in from the Chinese Communist Party, instead of actually respecting, honoring, and admiring the goodness, truth, and beauty of traditional Olympic sports competitions, as well as the innate thrill of victory and agony of defeat when it comes by honestly to gifted and virtuous athletes. This has been Mike McNulty of Fastener Technology International, bringing you the Fastener News Report. Please send your news, pictures, comments, corrections, or complaints to me at mcnulty@fastenertech.com.
Brighton Best International offers alloy steel inch and metric series socket products, available in both electro and mechanically zinc-plated finishes that provide superior corrosion resistance for high-strength applications. Electroplated inch socket products are zinc-plated to ASTM F1941, while electroplated metric socket products are zinc-plated to ISO 4042. Both are baked to relieve hydrogen embrittlement and provide a bright finish. Mechanically zinc-plated inch and metric series socket products are plated to ASTM B695. Brighton Best International stocks a full line of socket products off the shelf at all of our nationwide locations for quick fulfillment of your needs. Visit brightonbest.com for convenient 24-hour order placement.
ND Industries has been increasing the safety and reliability of fastener assemblies by developing innovative materials and processes since 1955. Names like ND Patch, Thermalock, Electrolock, and Vibratite serve a wide variety of fastening applications across North America and around the world. To see our full line of innovative products or to discuss your application requirements, contact ND Industries today at www.ndindustries.com.
Stelfast customers say it all.
Tim Melanson with National Bolt and Industrial Supply out of Fort Worth, Texas. Oh yeah, I like working with Stelfast. And I like the team at Stelfast. They're dependable, knowledgeable, friendly. You know, the team is. Yeah, I like working with Stelfast.
For service you deserve and people you trust, it's Stelfast.
Well, hi, everyone. This is Carmen Vertullo with your Fastener Training Minute, coming to you from the Fastener Training Institute and AIM Testing Laboratory here in beautiful El Cajon, California. As is often the case, today's Fastener Training Minute topic comes from a question that I got from someone who was in one of our Fastener Training Institute classes. And this question comes up frequently, and sadly, there is no good answer to this question. However, I'm going to provide a partial answer and a solution going forward. And the question is this: when using jam nuts, now you all know what a jam nut is. It looks like a regular hex nut, except it's thinner, I should say, about half height. When using jam nuts, should the jam nut go on top of the full-size nut or underneath the full-size nut? Now, most common sense folks would think, well, you would put the jam nut on after. But in our world, when we look this up in a technical perspective, we find out that most of the folks who think they know what they're talking about say, put the jam nut on first and then the full height nut. And this sounds very confusing. And it is very confusing. And when we come back, I'll try to clear up the confusion and then ultimately propose a method by which we can have a final answer. Please come back for the rest of the Fastener Training Minute in just a minute.
Thanks, Carmen. This is Joe Morris with the Fastener Training Institute, and I hope everyone is safe and healthy and starting to get back to somewhat of a normal routine. Training should absolutely be on the top of everyone's list in 2022, and the Fastener Training Institute has plenty of options to help you get a jump start on the new year. In February and March, we are continuing our webinar series, Fastener Basics Like Never Before. This is a basic level 90-minute webinar presented by our one and only Carmen Vertullo. On February 18th, join us for electronic assembly hardware. This webinar is going to cover all the basics of that very special hardware items like spacers, standoff, clinch nuts, wire management, U-nuts and clip nuts, and a whole bunch of other stuff that you've probably never heard of, but you know what? You should be selling those. Then on March 11th, we will present the webinar Lifting Hardware, followed by Aerospace Fasteners on April 11th and Fastener Testing and Inspection on April 15th. These webinars are intended for anyone new to the fastener industry, but they're also great for seasoned veterans who just want to learn more about the products that they buy and sell. Then looking forward, FTI is also jumping back into live in-person training classes, and we're going to be presenting Fastening 101 on Tuesday, May 17th at Fastener Fair. That's in Detroit this year. Please visit our website at fastenertraining.com for more information and a complete listing of all of our webinars and classes. Now back to Carmen.
Quality products, quality service, quality customers. That's 3Q Inc., a fastener distributor unlike any you've worked with before. With its unique remote managed inventory stocking programs, wide array of secondary service offerings, and wholly owned cold forming capability, 3Q Inc. has been supporting fastener distributors since 2008. 3Q offers a wide range of 100% American-made fasteners, including 100% made in USA domestic lock washers, clevis pins and bolts, special ITW screw products, Tap-R, Boss Screw, TL stud, and grip tied inserts, Sems lock washer products, split lock washers, tooth lock washers, and square cone, as well as specialty and imported parts. Give 3Q a call today to discuss your needs and experience 3Q quality for yourself. 3Q Inc. www.3q-inc.com.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Fastener Training Minute. Today's topic is jam nuts. Now, if you've ever looked up in any technical book or manual about the proper use of jam nuts, what you probably discovered is, oh my goodness, I've been doing it wrong all these years. The jam nut goes on first, and then the thick nut or the regular nut goes on top of it. Well, to me, there's a little bit of a problem with that. And here's some of the questions that we have to ask and answer to accept that strategy. The first question is, what should the torque of the jam nut be when we install it? Well, theoretically, it's a half height nut, so maybe it should be half of the torque of the full height nut. If we only torque it to half the torque of the full height nut, we're obviously not going to get the full tension on the bolt. So now we are going to put on the full height nut on top of that jam nut. And theoretically, we're going to torque it to its proper torque. And somehow magically, it's going to pull through that jam nut and add tension to the bolt. I don't think so. I don't think that would work. And should we hold the jam nut from turning while we tighten the full height nut, or let it grab the jam nut and turn it more? Those are questions that we have to answer. So once we have that all figured out, it's obvious that we still don't know how much tension we're putting on the bolt. So there are two answers to this. One answer is, first off, jam nuts are not the best solution for vibration-resistant fastening. They're very popular, but there are better solutions than that. We'll talk about those in another Fastener Training Minute. But if that's the solution that's been chosen, we then have to come up with the strategy for the installation, one of which I just described, which is the most common one. Here's the thing. It's probably not suitable for high-strength bolting or any bolting that is intended to be used in its full tension application. That all works fine if the bolt is in shear and we're not really concerned with tension. We're not going to fully tension the bolt anyway. So that might be the answer to the whole jam nut problem. The reason this also comes up for me is I just spent the middle of the night, literally 2 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock in the morning, on web meetings with the ISO Fastener Standards TC2 Committee, Subcommittee 12, on nuts on which I sit. And these are the world's greatest experts. They're unbelievably smart people. And they're all in other parts of the world. And they all think that the jam nut should go on second. We really didn't solve the problem in that meeting, but we did identify it as something that needs to have some resolution. So here's what I propose, and it would be a relatively simple resolution. We have some test equipment here because we happen to be a fastener testing laboratory, and we can simply do some experiments. Let's find out what happens to the bolt tension when we put on our jam nut first and our full height nut on second. Let's do some vibration testing and find out whether it's more or less effective to put the jam nut on under the full height nut or on top of the full height nut. And I intend to do these experiments. And if anyone is interested in joining me in them, I would be happy to have some help. Maybe you can provide the product and we write the nice magazine article about what we find out. We'll give you some credit for that. Well, I know I didn't probably solve the problem that any of you may have with the use of jam nuts, but at least we now know what the problem is and it's been well defined, and we're on our way to a solution that we will be describing in a future Fastener Training Minute. This has been Carmen Vertullo with the Fastener Training Minute. Thank you for listening.
Hi, this is Robbie Gilchrist with Capital Marketing and Gilchrist Associates. You're listening to Fully Threaded Radio, hosted by Brian and Eric.
Frequent Fully Threaded listeners know that we've been talking a lot on the podcast about the trend in the industry towards consolidation. In other words, a lot of companies being bought up, and it seems like every time you look at the fastener media these days, there's another one. And one of the culprits behind this trend seems to be AFC Industries. Well, on the line with us now is a gentleman who knows a little bit about that. He's Kevin Godin with AFC. Actually, he's the CEO. Thanks for hopping on with us today, Kevin.
Hi, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
You know, you and I have had a lot of opportunities to cross paths over the years, but it wasn't until recently that we actually had a in-depth conversation. I mean, we've been at so many of the same events and so forth, so glad to finally get a chance to get to know you a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting how that works. Such a small world, small industry, and yet there's people you see, but you don't really get to know them, and that's sort of the case with us. Well, you are so popular. You always have a line of people over there, so I just figured you're busy.
Well, not too busy for you, Kevin, and thanks for saying that. That's one of the reasons that I frequently leave the booth to Brian, you know. He does a great job along with Lynn so many times for us. Well, you're a guy in demand as well these days because you're doing a lot with AFC. You're also the president of the NFDA, and we'll talk about that a little bit today. Matter of fact, I was looking at the NFDA website, prepping up for our conversation here today. And right there, when you fire up the homepage, there's a photo. Oh, man, if we could only go back to that, Kevin, the 2019 meeting down in Naples, that was an event.
The good old days, 2019, back before the world changed, right?
That's right. That was the last really great shindig we had before they threw the plague at us. And man, do we look happy there and content.
Yeah, one of the things we're really excited about, and I guess we'll talk about this when we get talking about NFDA, but the opportunity to really reconnect with folks this coming year with in-person events is something that we've talked a lot about. And we've made a lot of efforts to adjust and evolve and be able to offer things virtually, remotely, provide value to the folks who for various reasons, whether it's COVID or whatever, can't get out. But really excited about getting out to actually see people face to face and reconnect and get caught up.
Yeah, it's going to be good. And it seems like that's picking up steam. Let's hope it continues in that direction. Well, let's talk a little bit about what's been going on with AFC. I mean, I believe the most recent company that you acquired was Oregon Bolt, and there were a cluster of them ahead of that. Talk a little bit about that, Kevin. What is the recent track record looking like? What's it been like doing all this work? I mean, it's been a real whirlwind.
Yeah, so we have been looking to partner with companies through acquisition for several years now. And as you probably know, we've done several over the years. But this last year was pretty busy for us. Mid-year, we closed on a company called Klein Tool. Then we did All American Fasteners, a company out of New Jersey with locations in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and New Jersey. Then we did Askew, which a lot of folks know, especially out on the West Coast there. And that was followed up with Oregon Bolt, as you mentioned. And I think we ended up closing the last three in 40-something days. So there was quite a rush there. But we're excited about all of these companies. Great teams, really good emphasis on customer service and understanding the business isn't, it's not a catalog business, but that we're providing service. And that's one of the main things we look for. And all of those businesses bring us talent, geography, expansion in end markets. So we're really excited about all of those.
Well, you've got a great team working with you over there. And I know a couple of those guys. You want to speak about them and the roles they're playing in this strategy as you're unrolling it?
Yeah, the thing I'm most proud of at AFC is the team that we have. There are a lot of folks who invest in businesses, and they've got really smart accounting people and really smart banking people. But one of the things that we've really tried to emphasize here is we want the folks operating the business to be people who understand the business. And so our team, I think, is one of the best balanced in terms of experience in the industry and exposure to those other sort of financial levers that you need to be able to take advantage of. And so, we have, I don't know how many years, I never, I guess, added it up, but, our president is a guy who was a VP of business development at Optimus. His name's Kevin McCarthy. Our VP of sales, Pete Glynn's been around. A lot of people know Pete. He worked at Worth. He had his own business for a while. He's at Timberline. John Kovach, our VP of sales, he was he's been around the block too. So I could go on and on. There's a lot of depth there and a lot of talent on that executive team. And when we acquire a business, especially businesses in geographies where we don't have as much concentration, we're really looking for a local management team that we can support and partner with, provide more resources to them. And, provide that experience in that team, have somebody that can be a sounding board for them or come in and help execute on opportunities. And we've found it to be a model that works really well. Some people buy a business, they come in, they say, hey, we're not going to change anything. Well, it doesn't make sense to not change anything. The world continues to evolve. We want to make improvements and continue to improve where possible.
Right.
But you also don't want to come in and change everything. You bought the business presumably because you like what they're doing, or they're doing something well. So we're trying to, we try to balance that. So in terms of service and our local divisional folks are highly empowered to run their business and take care of the customer. But in terms of strategy and some of the back end things that can bring efficiencies, that's where we think we really can help. So it's been a good model. Most of the folks that we sell to stay with us. And, sometimes people are looking to retire or transition. That's why they sell. So that's different. But the folks who've wanted to be part of the team and continue, they all have. And we've been pretty successful together so far.
Interesting. Well, you answered several of my questions generally with that statement, and that's all really, really interesting. I know a lot of guys in the audience are either own or run companies that could be future acquisition candidates for companies like AFC. There are several that are doing similar things. Do you sense a competition out there, Kevin, when you're searching for companies to add into your group that others are suitors for these companies? I mean, is that kind of a feeling emerging out there?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of capital that's being pent up that's looking for a place to be put to work. There's a lot of investors that like the space, right? I think part of what makes us unique is that we have a lot of deep experience operating a fastener business, and we have the capital backing. So there are others who have that dynamic as well, and we do run into them from time to time. But it's interesting. I guess it's a lot like selling a customer, right? If it's really just an auction, that's probably not a good deal, right? You want to have a good fit culturally. You want to have a good fit in terms of what that seller's looking to do and what you're looking to do, and what that team is built to do, and how it fits with what you're trying to accomplish. So if you're buying businesses, let's just say, off a spreadsheet, that's probably not going to work. So what happens then is there'll be several people who might have reached out to the folks who've sold to us, and they get to know some of those people. And over time, I mean, value has to be there, but over time, you really begin to see who you think might be the best fit to accomplish whatever you're trying to do in selling the business, whether that's to transition out, whether that's to just have access to more resources or more geography. The reasons vary. So the first phase is more competitive. There's a lot of people involved, but as the process plays out, people tend to gravitate towards a partner that they feel is going to best meet their needs and culture.
Right. Well, if they're wise, they do. But within that group of companies, as you're describing, that seem to be good fits, I mean, there are some that seem to be right in the sweet spot. I mean, let's face it, Solution Industries recently is a great example. Vertex, there were several companies that would have liked to have partnered with that company. There are a lot of mid-sized and smaller companies that may fit that same category. So I guess what I was leading up to really, Kevin, is it a seller's market if you're a company that feels like you're in that sweet spot category?
Yeah, well, there's no question that it's a good time right now to be a seller, because when you think about what happened with COVID, a lot of capital got delayed in terms of its deployment. So the financial investors, anyway, many of them are behind their deployment schedule. So I don't know that I want to take up too much time, but a lot of people don't really understand maybe or haven't been exposed to how that private equity market works. But if you commit to investing in a fund, you're basically signing a contract to provide them capital, right? When they call for it, you're not giving them the money, but you've got to keep it liquid, because if they call for it, you have a short amount of time to provide it. So what happens in those cases is if you get a lot of capital committed that's not called, that's not being put to work, those people who committed that, they're saying, hey, wait a minute, this money isn't working for me. When are you going to use it? And so they want that money to be put to work, because it doesn't do them any good in a CD or whatever. So when COVID happened, things slowed down. A lot of businesses were impacted. That meant that there was a lot of undeployed capital building up. And so I think that's why you see for high quality businesses right now, the valuations have gone up, and it is more competitive for those companies, like you mentioned, that are attractive to multiple buyers. It's certainly a good time to be a seller right now. And now, whether or not that means you should sell now depends obviously on a lot of other factors and what you think the market might do and what you're personally trying to accomplish. But yes, right now it's certainly much more of a seller advantageous market than was prior to COVID.
Okay, so I'm going to interpret that as we shouldn't be surprised if we see more acquisition activity out there in the market. Is that a safe assumption?
I think that's a safe assumption, yeah.
Okay, for the foreseeable future. Got that, people? Let's talk a little bit about the supply chain. That's something that you know a whole lot about. As a matter of fact, that is one of the reasons AFC has a role in the industry, right? It's right at the top of your moniker. What do you see these days? I mean, obviously, it's all around us. Give us your summary.
Yeah, well, obviously, everybody in the business, I think, is seeing the same things, facing the same challenges, right? There's capacity issues. Some of that's logistical. Some of that has to do with availability of materials and capacity in Asia and here. As people are expediting, business is strong, moving things here, then that fills up. I think what we're seeing right now is sort of like a snake eating a rabbit. Right, you've got a lot of people who are trying to catch up really fast and putting a strain on the system. A lot of capacity was adjusted out, labor, all of those kinds of things, come together. I think, like most things, it'll adjust. So I don't think that what we're seeing now will be sustainable for years, but I also don't think it will go back to what it was. Probably for the next several months, for sure, from what we're hearing. We're going to continue to see some challenges, and and folks will add capacity where they think that they can get a return on that, and it'll begin to adjust. But I think some of the other dynamics, labor and some of the other things, are going to be longer term factors that have to be accounted for.
Well, there's a lot of talk about all of this chaos in the supply chain adding to the movement of reshoring. In other words, bringing manufacturing back to the U.S. Is AFC feeling that and perhaps even planning to do some of that yourselves?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think when we hear about those trends, people tend to collapse that as if it's a macro trend. I think it tends to be more granular. So there are certain types of parts that should always be made here, should have always been made here. And AFC is certainly committed to being a great partner with people that are experts in those things. We want to have strong domestic supplier relationships. And so where we're investing in our own ability to produce product is, so on the tooling side, we manufacture a lot of the tooling we sell. And prototyping things like because we have a custom engineered components group. And so those kinds of things tend to be lower volume or specialized, where we'll manufacture prototypes. We'll get it kind of dialed in what we want. But no, then we're going to look for a domestic partner where it makes sense to manufacture those things at production volume. And likewise, there are some parts that it just makes sense even still to import. So we want to have healthy relationships on both sides. We want to have a strong U.S. Manufacturing base that allows us to be responsive and take care of our customers. And we also want to have relationships offshore to be able to do the same thing. So we're not looking to try to develop expertise in-house to manufacture products. We would rather partner with people that have decades of experience with those kind of parts and develop a good relationship with them to support us.
Well, we kind of backed into it, but let me give you a chance to thumbnail AFC Industries. In other words, give our listeners a sense of the size and scope of your operation?
Yeah, so AFC Industries is sort of interesting, right? It started, or the AFC originally derived from Advanced Fastener Corp in Cincinnati, Ohio, which was founded in the late 80s. And then the original platform acquired Dell Fastener in Pittsburgh, and that was the original business, those two, when I came back in 2015, I suppose it was. Yeah, it was 2015 when I came to the business. And then we've continued to grow organically and through acquisition. Today we've got 42 branch locations and about $260 million in revenue. So, the business has grown really well, both through acquisition and organically. And so really, when we think about the business, though, we're not looking to compete with Amazon. We're not looking to compete with catalog guys. We really think of it in terms of really providing a service. We're selling a service. The parts that we have to develop expertise around are a vehicle for delivering that service. So we think of ourselves as a supply chain solutions company, which is why we have tooling, custom engineered components. We'll do like machine castings and tight tolerance machine parts, as well as your traditional fastener product offerings, because it's the same problem you're trying to solve in terms of making a manufacturer or assembler more efficient at running their operation. So again, when we talked about suppliers and having a healthy manufacturing base in the U.S., we also see ourselves as part of allowing customers to be efficient and have a strong manufacturing base here. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Well, I think that gives us a pretty good picture, a pretty good overview. And again, I backdoored us into that, but such are my interview skills. The conversation is flowing along here. And so I'm going to zigzag once again and return back to this topic of supply chain, because you're in the mix of it. You clearly understand your role in it. And we've been talking a lot on the podcast about blockchain and why it may or may not be applicable to the fastener industry. And clearly, based on the recent FDI report, it's not really on the radar of our audience. And Kelly Cole spoke on this a little bit during his analysis in the previous segment. I don't think you had a chance to hear that, Kevin, but I bet you have some thoughts generally about blockchain and whether it may or may not impact us. What do you think?
Yeah, certainly blockchain is definitely the way that larger companies are moving in terms of, supply chain, data, and control. And it is something that I think those larger customers, particularly like automotive customers, medical customers, they're going to put pressure on suppliers to move that way. And I think some of the larger businesses in our space probably are aware of it, are already having those conversations and thinking about how that can be deployed. Now, I think the reality is that for the average fastener business, and when you look at that supply chain, the kind of technology that we tend to operate with, and the kind of technology that most fastener distributors and their suppliers operate with, we're a ways away, I think, from that being something that's on everybody's mind. But I do think it's something people should begin to come up to speed on and understand what's happening, because this is already something that is being embedded in people's strategic initiatives at the larger customers. And you know how that goes. That will filter down over time. So are we talking about a year? No. I mean, but in 10 years, maybe that's where we'll be. We'll have to see how it goes.
Right. And actually, when we devised the questions on the recent FDI survey, the one that I really thought was going to be the clincher would be whether distributors were aware of anyone downstream or upstream from them that were forcing it on them, because I never expected the fastener industry to be the driver of it. And again, we're really looking at the technology to satisfy that, what Chapman Riverchrome last episode calls supply chain transparency, right? So in theory, that is what the blockchain technology would bring, along with this immutability. And so it's the security and the transparency, in theory, is what the blockchain will someday deliver to these complex supply chain systems.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you think about how important the supply chain is right now on everybody's mind, if you can imagine if you're running an automotive company or a medical device company, something like that, what we're dealing with is being amplified. And so I think that comment about transparency, that is absolutely going to be a factor going forward. People are going to want control. People are going to want to be able to have visibility into what's happening all the way through the supply chain. And those things have always been concerns. Those have always been desires. But COVID and some of the other recent developments have even elevated that strategically at a lot of these larger businesses. And so I am aware of, a couple larger businesses in our space that I know. I've had conversations where they're looking to understand it better and how that could be something that they're able to provide. But again, I think the technology and the availability of implementing that and broadly throughout the supply chain for fasteners, we're probably a little ways away from that still.
Right. But the awareness is getting there, at least in certain circles. I'm sure you've heard that SmartCert is out there making some noise, and they're trying to bring the certification transparency that people want. And I guess at some level, SmartCert is an approach to that.
Yeah, I'm very generally aware of that, and I've heard about that and talked to some of our folks about what they're doing and what we're doing. But I'm not sure. I don't know enough about it to know whether or not that's using blockchain technology, but certainly an approach that's trying to provide that transparency and that clarity to the customer.
Right. Yeah, glad you said that, Kevin. They're not a blockchain technology, but they are trying to provide a tool for providing documentation transparency. Well, I mentioned Kelly Cole there a moment ago. He was our FDI analyst this month, and I know he's a compadre of yours, if no other way, through the NFDA. And you're the recent president. I suppose I've been remiss because it used to be our tradition to always invite the NFDA president on. And so we're backdooring that as well. Congratulations on that. And what can you say about the NFDA? What's happening over there? What are your plans for the organization in your rebuilding period after the plague?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. It's an interesting time to be involved with NFDA. Obviously, what people need and expect from an association and how content is being delivered and to who content is being delivered continues to evolve. And the last couple of years have accelerated that. And, we're excited about kind of where we're at here. And the reason is this pandemic probably pulled us a little bit faster to begin thinking about providing content virtually, more so than what was on our mind before. And this year, we're really excited. I mentioned about restarting in-person events, but we're not going to just go back to what we were doing, right? We're looking to continue to support those roundtables, which I would encourage people to take advantage of those, as there's some great conversations that occur there. And looking at technology in other ways. How do we deliver the kind of content? How do we deliver the kind of experiences that are really going to help members? And then also expanding our view of who that content should go to. One of the things that I'm really excited about and looking forward to really digging in and work on more is to work with YFP. The young folks in the industry. It's an industry that is not necessarily easy to walk into and be effective quickly because there's so much to learn, product knowledge, and just the whole the whole mountain of information and complexity in the supply chain and all of those things that has to be mastered. And then you're fighting uphill with the fact that not a lot of younger folks in high school or early college years are exposed to what the industry really does and how critical it is and how exciting it really can be. and the fact that you can really have a good career and take great care of your family and get to work with some wonderful people, that doesn't necessarily penetrate the culture, the broader culture, the way that perhaps it should. And so, we're really looking at both ends. How are we providing value to the members? How do we get content to them? We obviously have the traditional things, the executive summits, ESPS coming up in Minnesota here in a few months. So if you haven't signed up for that, we'd encourage you to do that. But also taking a little bit of a longer view to how do we help be a resource for these businesses to recruit, to train, to motivate and encourage the younger talent that they have, so that we can retain these folks and continue to be providers of excellent service through our businesses to our customers and be successful together.
Yeah, I don't know if a lot of people are aware that the Young Fastener Professionals YFP was folded into NFDA somewhat recently. What exactly is the relationship there? I mean, is it a wholly owned subsidiary now, so to speak, or what's the relationship?
Yeah, no, I don't. I don't think we think of them as a subsidiary. There's a group of really, really bright, talented folks at YFP. They've got views on how they can make the industry a better place for people who are looking to grow. And really, what NFDA is doing is we're partnering with them in a couple ways. One, as a sounding board. Two, to sort of provide resources to them, and three, just to come alongside them and see where there's opportunities for us to help them to have access to the relationships and so forth that are going to support what their strategy is. And we're in dialogue all the time about what they're trying to do and how we can help them. So I don't want folks to think like NFDA's running YFP. That wouldn't be accurate. YFP has its own group of folks who are driving that, but we work with them on strategic alignment and resources and things like that to try to help them. And we're really excited about that partnership. I mean, that's the future of the industry, right? I mean, these are the folks who are going to be running all the companies one of these days soon. So we feel it's an important extension of what NFDA was already doing, which is to try to provide member companies access to things that are going to make them more competitive over the long run.
Right. Well, they need someone like the NFDA to whip them into shape. That I can tell you, because I've seen them at the trade shows, and they're usually like at least 15 minutes late in the morning to their booth. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's you got to balance the potential with the discipline sometimes, and like I don't know how it is with others, but sometimes when you get people, they've got a lot of great ideas and things, and really you just want to kind of talk to them about, okay, how do we filter these things down to the most important things we can execute on, and where should that time be best spent, and and then hopefully hopefully they get there and show up on time and do what they need to do.
Hey, my advice would be to get new members in there and give them a good talking to by Bill Derry over there from Field Fastener. He'd whip them into shape real quick. I don't think they'd give him any lip.
Yeah, let Bill do the orientation for the new folks. That'd be it's like boot camp for fastener industry, right?
Yeah. So, well, that's all real good. Now, speaking of upcoming events, you just had your roundtable. The ESPS sessions are coming up. That is a fantastic event every time, even when it's virtual, I have to say, Kevin. I mean, I think out of all the things you could do virtually, that one really lends itself. But the big one coming up, maybe we can attract some new members for you. Naples, Florida in November. That's going to be a great meeting, not to be missed.
Yeah, those meetings, we always get really great feedback about those meetings, just the interaction, the networking that takes place. And hey, I am sitting here in Southeast Michigan looking outside at foot of snow. So the idea of being in Naples and being able to work on things that help the business and have some fun while we're doing it is very, very appealing to me, and hopefully some others. So yeah, if you haven't attended one of those summits before, I would definitely encourage you to look into it. It's a great venue, great networking opportunity, and a lot of fun.
We're speaking with Kevin Godin of AFC Industries. He's the CEO. He's also the president of the NFDA. Kevin, please, for our listeners who are not familiar, who you got on the board with you over there at NFDA this time around?
Yeah, we've got a great group of professionals on the board, and it's really a joy to work with people who are committed to the industry and challenging us to continue to do better. So we've got Nick Ritz from AIS, Kelly Charles from SEMS and Specials, Adam Derry from Field, Mike Robinson from Vertex, John Queenan from Specialty, Craig Penlin from Eurolink, Jim Degnan from SW Anderson, and Jody Tennies from Copper State, Mark Summers. So a great cross-section of folks from the industry that bring different perspectives and all sorts of different types of businesses from within the industry. And we really couldn't ask for a group of people who's more passionate about really providing great value to the members. So great team.
A lot of familiar names on that list. Well, that is a great lineup. You can learn more about NFDA, see the smiling faces of some of those people on the yacht that we were treated to by the Link team back in November 2019. It's at nfda-fastener.org. That particular pic flashes right up when you hit the website. And to learn more about AFC Industries, go to afcind.com. That's Kevin's baby. Thanks so much for speaking with us today, Kevin. I learned a lot, and I had a lot of fun getting to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, thanks. I feel the same and appreciate the opportunity.
I'm sure we'll do it again in some capacity, probably, hopefully, at an NFDA meeting or event sometime in the near future, an in-person one.
Yeah, that would be great.
Kevin Godin, CEO, AFC. Hey, thanks for listening in, everybody. We'll be back momentarily to wrap up this episode of Fully Threaded Radio.
At Star, the sum of all we do delivers what we consider star quality. What began decades ago in a small-town garage paved the way for Star Stainless, a foundation built upon hard work, dedication, commitment, and partnerships. It's not just strictly the quality of the products we sell or the service we offer, but the approach in everything we do. Thanks for working with us throughout the years. Let's successfully kick off 2022 together. At Star Stainless, our quality is more than products.
You hear that? Your line is speaking to you. It's asking you a question. Are we good enough? Is good enough good enough? Do we have everything we need for today and tomorrow? Are we delivering the best possible solution? Will what we make stand the test of time? Can we be bigger, faster, safer, smarter? Can we get what we need before we need it? Can we increase production? Can we be more precise? Can we work day and night for weeks on end? Can we create what's never been done? Yes, we can. Let's discover your worth.
Goebel Fasteners increases efforts to maintain its reputation as the leading rivet source with a large inventory of parts and expedited delivery options. We have over $10 million worth of global inventory in stock at all times and pride ourselves on same-day or next-day shipping options that are available to all our customers. Goebel Fasteners, the leading rivet source.
Hi, this is Rob Big Country Reynolds of NSequel Software, coming to you from the 19th hole, and you are listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
So, Bri, going back to the conversation in the opening feature segment with John and Tim.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Reached out to John Coolhand Butler up there at the Olander Company and asked him about, a lot of you folks, you may know that John is also the voice of Solution Man. Asked him, where does your Solution Man tattoo stand after all this?
Or where is it placed?
Yes. Well, it's placed nowhere as of yet. And as of last summer, when I was with both John Butler and John Riddell, former owner of Solution Industries, I know that offer was still standing. So the idea was that anytime, any place, anywhere Coolhand wanted to get that ink, Riddell was going to cover it. So Coolhand says that is still in the plans, and I think he's angling right now for a few new Solution Industries commercial jobs is what it is. If you want to know my honest opinion, but we'll have to see.
Right. Those might come after the Olander Company's ones.
Ooh, yeah. Don't know. Don't know if they have a policy about that. If you're going to get a fastener tat and it's for another company before your own, I don't know how that'll be perceived.
Right.
But I think he has a special case, right?
We could argue that, yes.
So, Solution Man, come on.
So why are you so interested in this?
Well,
I mean, it's not like you to be that fascinated with tattoos.
No. It's true. I mean, well, earlier in years past in the podcast, we did have that brief period where we talked about fastener tattoos a lot. But, that's before the whole craze really became mainstream like it finally did, when high school girls have tattoos everywhere, it's everybody's got sort of a barbed wire thing going around their arm now, I don't know. I suppose I'm not really a tattoo person myself, and I suppose it's just a morbid, voyeuristic curiosity that's driving it. They look good on some people.
Right.
And I just like Solution Man. What kind of tattoo would you get representing the scrubber?
I have no idea, but it would not be a scrubbing brush, I might tell you, okay?
One of those abstract concepts.
Yeah, I don't know.
Abstract like blockchain, perhaps.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to them. If I was a fair amount younger, I would. I mean, I grew up in New Zealand, tattoos were sort of pretty common because they were because the British Navy was tattooed to hell, and that was where they sort of all came from for us. And the local Polynesian population, tattoos are a complete part of their whole, thing. They're all tattooed, so you see them everywhere.
Well, they're everywhere now, just not yet on John Coolhand Butler. At least not a Solution Industries one. Like to thank the guests on today's episode of the podcast. They were from AFC Industries, Kevin Godin, John Newman, and Tim Vath of Lindfast Solutions Group and Solution Industries. Kicked it all off for us today. Mike McNulty had the Fastener News Report. He was joined by Kelly Cousteau-Cole, and Carmen Vertullo had the Fastener Training Minute. He specially requested some outro jam music, thematic with the jam nuts. That was his call, Bri, in case you were wondering why he had the rockin' music there to wind it up. And we all got a chance to hear for the first time anywhere, Stan the Screw of Star Stainless.
Yes.
You'll be hearing more from him along with, I guess, a cast of characters, and that'll unfold as the episodes do. Thanks one and all. Thanks also to our great lineup of sponsors.
Yep.
We could not do the podcast without, we would not do the podcast without them.
No.
And the title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio are Brighton Best International, Tested, Tried, True, Brighton Best, Global Fasteners, Quality the First Time, Global Fasteners, and Star Stainless Screw. Right off the shelf, it's Star. Fully Threaded is also sponsored by Buckeye Fasteners, BTM Manufacturing, Eurolink Fastener Supply Service, Fastener Technology International, Fastener Fair USA, NSequel Software, ND Industries, Parker Fasteners, Solution Industries, Stelfast, 3Q Inc., Volt Industrial Plastics, and Worth Industry North America. Again, everyone, the email address is ftr@fullythreaded.com. We welcome your comments. And we welcome your thoughts about blockchain, although I seriously doubt we'll get any takers on that one, Bri, because, again, it is an industry that seems to be unchained. Kevin was our last guest to comment on that on the episode today, and he had a few ideas about it, and he's at a level where he talks to a lot of captains of industry, and so I know that he's got his finger on the pulse, but really, it seems a long way off for us, doesn't it? What's your understanding in general of the progress of blockchain in industry? I mean, you must see something on the horizon with all the reading you do.
I do, and as far as the fastener industry is concerned, it is on the horizon. However, it points to a really, really fascinating horizon, okay? In terms of where we are right now, if any of your nuts and bolts and screws and washers are coming on a container with the biggest shipping line in the world, Maersk, they're already running on blockchain, okay? The three biggest shipping companies in the world, MSC, that's Mediterranean Shipping Company, CMA and Maersk, are all running blockchain, and it's the same blockchain developed by IBM, especially for them. It's called WaveBL. So think of all those millions of containers. That's how they keep track of them now. Okay?
Oh, no, that's exactly what I was thinking when you were saying that, Brian. Like, are they to blame for all this?
No, they can keep track of the ones as they fall off the ships. So also FedEx, UPS, and DHL have all met to set the standards for how they're going to work blockchain, and FedEx is testing blockchain already. That, for a start, won't have much impact on us, except at some stage in the future, when you click on your little number to have a look at your tracking history, you'll be using the blockchain without even knowing it, okay?
Oh, is that right? Well, that's something everyone can identify with.
Right. But where that really goes is that the FedEx or UPS blockchains will be an interconnected blockchain with whatever your new ERP software is written in, which will be that as well, so that people can really control an order from you, and the order will be on a smart contract, which also runs on the blockchain. So that's where the view of it all is. The whole lot starts with a purchase order from one of your customers, and that purchase order will be a smart contract. And when the purchase order is completed, it means the payment's automatic and all that sort of stuff, and it cannot be altered. And the real big difference, though, is this what they call Web 3.0. The fact is that our current system, just like when you use our Fasteners Clearinghouse, every connection comes back to a set of servers in central Illinois, okay? Under blockchain, there's no central server. This blockchain and copies of it are scattered everywhere. So it might be that in the blockchain world, you type in Fasteners Clearinghouse and you get connected to a server in Timbuktu or South Africa or Peru or America or anywhere. It doesn't really matter.
Semi-rural Northeast Ohio.
Or Northeast Ohio even, okay? In a barn somewhere on a farm there, okay? It could be. It could be. That's the big difference. The whole lot becomes basically fault sort of tolerant because, we have difficulty building fault tolerance into our current systems. And that's why this Web 3.0 is sort of, some people is fearful because they lose the control. In other words, people love it because they gain freedom. But what we're missing at the moment is an ERP system that uses it, okay? And when that is developed, then you'll be able to link your blockchains and all these other ones so that your customers can track their orders right through the world, really, without really knowing what blockchain they're connected to.
All right. I think that's an adequate amount of new information for those of our listeners who are still with us. By the way, Bri, after the last episode, got a message from our old pal Andy Pells, and it said simply, "Have Brian explain blockchain to us, please." So there you go, Andy. That's about as close as we're going to get. I also went out onto the Apple podcast app, and since everybody in this audience is already listening to podcasts, it's something you might consider. Just go into the search feature there, type in blockchain, and the first one that comes up is a podcast called Explain Blockchain by a guy by the name of Peter Ulrich. Now, I don't know who he is. He might be super prominent in the blockchain world, but I listened to episode 1, which is about 24 minutes, and it's a high-level explanation. And even that brief summary of it gets a little technical, but you get the idea of what it is. You understand the main features of what makes a blockchain and why it is so revolutionary. Although
Right.
I have to say a lot of it seems still pretty theoretical, probably, because I'm not convinced now that I know that the supply chain has been endowed with it, that it isn't partly responsible for all of the mystery, Maybe that's what they're trying to sweep under the rug. And that's why, some of the shipments are taking like 4 years.
No, remember that mouse, the company got hacked, and the entire worldwide company was hacked with the exception of one single server they had sitting somewhere in Africa, Senegal Republic or somewhere like that.
Right. Well, in theory, the distributed ledger removes that possibility, but we'll have to see. There's a lot of problems they have to overcome before they can ever get to that point. But for the moment, that's not going to happen because, at least in the fastener industry, we're unchained.
You are very, very much unchained, okay?
And that's going to put this episode of Fully Threaded Radio in the can, everybody. So glad you joined us. Hop on next time. We'll have more for you.
In the intervening weeks before our next podcast, do some reading on blockchain.
Now you're asking for a lot, folks. All I'll ask you for is listen in next time.
Yeah.
For Brian Musker, this is Eric Dudas. Get out there, sell some screws, and we'll talk to you next time.
See you later.
Fully Threaded Radio is a production of Fastener's Clearinghouse. Music provided by Audionautics.